Trickeration back to the quarterback. Wide open is Gavin Holmes. Touchdown Baylor, 38 yards. Nobody was in striking distance of Gavin Holmes.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
A give right up the middle. It's Will Nixon. And the Huskies have liftoff on their first drive of the game.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
3rd and 16 for Martinez. Didn't have time to throw it down the field. He runs instead. Martinez has the first down. Adrian Martinez. Unreal effort tonight for Kansas State.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Stein's the snapper, Reed Bowers the holder, and here is Cam Little to take the lead for the Hogs. It hit the top and rains down into the end zone.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
It's Trey Benson. Crosses over to 20 with a seam past the 40. And Trey Benson is into the open field inside the 20 with a stiff arm. And how's that for a start for the Noles?
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
There is always so much to uncover following a weekend of college football, and yes, there's so much more. And I don't even know where to start, but we're going to try to get there. The first 40 minutes or so of this show is to look back and also look ahead, to look at topics that are up for discussion, and so much more. You heard some of the highlights. Paul does a great job of overviewing and summarizing the weekend. You on the chat room are already here. And thank you very much. The text line 254-339-1122. Let's try to put our hands around what we saw, the evidence we saw from both in the Big 12 and also in the top 25 and other stories surrounding it with coaching changes, etc. The Big 12, Texas Tech beats Texas. K-State goes into Norman. They just, for whatever reason, have had a great success like they used to have against Texas, against Oklahoma, and Baylor goes into Ames and takes care of their business, and perhaps the loss in Provo allowed them to handle Ames a little bit better. Paul, Craigie, why do we have to say there was one team with the best win? All three of those were very impressive wins in the Big 12.
Yeah, and Tech got through it with kind of a mess at the end of the game. You know, some of the things that were going on, it's like they're kind of trying to figure out how to actually be in a game like this on the fly. But the fact that they've played a couple close games early in the year, I think helped them out a little bit, and that's a big win over Texas, because you're probably only going to play them one more time. So to get one, on the way close to out the door is huge for any school in the Big 12, especially one in the state of Texas, and one that hasn't beat them very much and got beat by 35 last year. Baylor looked like themselves for the first time really this year, I thought, for the lion's share of that game. And, Kansas State and Adrian Martinez, for the first time this year, looked like a team that everybody thought that they might be when that transfer happened. Now, can that continue past the Oklahoma game? Was that, one big moment of momentum? But, yeah, that was all really exciting this weekend.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks you've asked that question, and I've had that response of why do we have to pick just one, and kind of felt bad last week doing that because it just kind of like shoots a hole in just to come out of the gates. But then again, no, I don't, because this is a perfect example of why I say that.
Absolutely.
There's not just a single thing to go like, they're the winners of the weekend. Like, that's exactly the point, is that there are multiple winners just in the Big 12 alone coming out of this weekend. What a weekend for the conference, and just calamity, and the race of, who's going to be there at the end, and who's going to be there here in a couple weeks still in contention, and who's going to completely fall to the wayside from expectations, and who's going to be the surprise team. And I just think it's a really fun league right now where there's a lot of unpredictability, because there's not necessarily a great team, but there's a bunch of pretty good teams. And I don't think there's any really bad teams. So that just gives you not really a high top end necessarily, although I think that remains to be seen for the Big 12, because there's 3 or 4 teams that may still arguably be up in that higher end. But I don't think there's anybody in the bottom end. And I think there's at least all 10 that are right there in the average to pretty good range. So I think that's going to make for a lot of fun, given that this was only the first weekend, and this is just the Big 12 we're talking about.
Yeah, and both TCU and Kansas, we have not and won't and will not forget about what they were able to do. TCU beating SMU in a cross-area town in a way together rivalry, joined at the hip with Dallas and Fort Worth. And then also Kansas with unbeaten Duke in town, taking care of their business. Should Kansas be ranked?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, I mean, why not? They're 4-0. They've not just beaten up on, like, just the worst of the worst. I mean, I think that, they've gone out. They beat West Virginia. I think that's a quality win for Kansas. Yep. They beat Duke. I don't think Duke's just some pushover. I don't think they're very good either, but I don't think that they're like just the basketball school Duke. I think Mike Elko gives them some level of respectability. So, yeah, I mean.
Maybe Houston.
And they beat Houston, who is just in a world of shambles right now. We got to have a Dana Holgerson conversation at some point, probably sooner rather than later, depending on how the next couple of weeks go, because that just doesn't seem like a good situation right now, especially coming out of Saturday. But, yeah, they beat Houston. So, I mean, those might not be the best teams in the world, but I think that's still a better schedule than a lot of others have probably played at this point. And they've been the clear – best team in those contests. I think that they've, really showed a lot with this offense of theirs, and we'll see over the course of the long haul. I wonder about them was just when they start getting into these games every week, when especially they start playing a lot more physical teams. Do they have the depth built up? Because that was always a question. That was kind of the struggle, was building up this roster. Can they have the depth to just guide them through what's going to be battle after battle after battle here over the next few weeks? But besides that, yeah, man, I think that they deserve to be ranked. And I can understand part of the reason why you'd be a little bit hesitant. But if we're going off what they've done and not what we think of this team or what they might do, which is what I think a lot of writers get confused, then, yeah, I think based on their resume, they deserve to be in the top 25.
Yeah, you're right, Craig. Ranking is what you've done. Not what you're going to do.
Or who your logo is, or anything, like what conference you're in.
Now, look, I think they've got a tough one against Iowa State this weekend. I think offensively versus defensively, that's probably the worst matchup they've seen so far this year, because Iowa State plays a defense that essentially begs you to go underneath and then cuts you in half. So while Jalen Daniels can do a lot of great things underneath and all that, that's going to be tough, because they're going to be very physical, and I don't think they've played a team that is as physical as Iowa State yet. But again, they have an offense that kind of scores in bunches. So if they can score 21 points like that, Iowa State's probably in a hole.
Yeah. So, well, here was what we have. So the Big 12 this weekend, you have Oklahoma State coming into Waco. You have Kansas State and Texas Tech. The West Virginia plays on the road against Texas down in Austin, among other games. Those aren't the only games. There's other games that have to be played. And again, we could see the teams that lost this weekend turn right around and take care of their business and jump right back into it with whatever they also do. And probably there's a couple of chances that will happen. Oklahoma State was able to sit back and go, wow, look at everything that's going on. So now you have Baylor, Oklahoma State 3. The 2 games last year in Stillwater, the one in Arlington, which came down to inches. And then also the game coming up in Waco.
Do you know that's exactly 3 games in a year?
No, I didn't think of it that way in the calendar year.
365 days. This will be their 3rd matchup coming up on Saturday.
I want to jump into this only for a second, and then I really don't want to talk about it again. The storming of the field, and I know that there's a video of a Texas Tech student shoving a UT player. There's a video of a UT player pushing down or pushing away a Texas Tech student or fan. To me, and I'm going to say this is my perspective, and I don't want to let this show get overshadowed. We will have both Dave Aranda and Joey Maguire on today's show one-on-one. So we'll have that. If you're a fan or a student or whoever and you rush the field, whatever happens to you once you're on the field, it's free game. That doesn't mean you can be, assaulted. And number two, you cannot make contact with players. You can jump in their face, whatever, that's fine. You cannot make contact with the player. And then eventually, to me, all bets are completely off. Both situations are wrong. You storm the field. There's too much of that, in my opinion. But that's my point.
Well,
That's
also the second time they've done it this year, which is kind of overboard for me. Just on the fact of you got to make it count when you do it, and two, it is way more ice cold to not storm the field, because what you're saying when you don't storm the field is, we thought that would happen. We're going home now.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Yeah, there are times, I could see the 08 game with Texas Tech and also Texas, the emotions of that game. Baylor's done it. Name a school that has it. I'm not so sure. Have they in Austin? Was there a game? I don't know. But
I don't think they've. Can't recall.
I thought there was a game. Maybe it was a basketball game. And even then, you kind of see the message. I'm not trying to back anybody. I'm just saying, to me, it's almost to the point now where everybody, because every game's on TV, you storm the field. The girl getting shoved shouldn't have happened. But once you go on the field and you're a fan, all bets are off, because then it gets dangerous. Emotions are high. And I don't know what I would have done. Of course, I never was at that level of anything playing football. Tim Brando today at 5. David Hellman today on the Cowboys and Giants playing tonight. Paul's top 5. And we'll also hear from a writer who covers Georgia Tech, because there's a coaching change already there and an AD change twice already in the first 2 or 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks of the football season.
Yeah, so I don't know how many people watch Texas Tech in Texas and know what you're referring to, but Texas Tech stormed the field, and that's the second time they've done that this year. And my feelings, and then what happened afterwards is there was video that came out of a Texas player getting shoved from behind by a guy, and what else did I miss?
And Tech has responded to that by saying, "Help us here.
Yeah,
let's figure out some information. Whatever happens to that, there's a still shot of it.
Yeah, and
that's from Texas Tech.
The players are just the Texas players just walking, and a guy comes running up and just shoves a player in the back, and it was very intentional, and it was very clear what the guy's purpose was, and it was very clear the type of person it was by that very action. I don't care how lubed up they were, from tailgating and all that. That's just, smarter people don't do that. But, I guess a couple of things. This is the second time they've rushed the field in the last 3 weeks. They did it against Houston. I think the argument against rushing the field is now look at the state of Houston. Was Houston really rush the field worthy?
Yeah.
No, they're not. Not even close. Will Texas even be that? Probably. Maybe not by the end of the year, but it is Texas, so I at least understand that might be the last time they come to Lubbock ever, for all we know. So that one I kind of get, but the Houston rushing the field really does look silly considering how bad the Cougars might be. But I understand that was a top 25 win, even though it doesn't count as that now. And that was, a future rival, and that was the big win for Joey at home and all of that. So I get the rushing of the field, but I did have a question after Saturday. It was are y'all going to do this for every game the rest of the way? It's because if you're doing it for Houston at number 25, and then you're doing it for Texas, I get it. Are you going to do that when you beat West Virginia? I wouldn't think so, but if it's a thrilling game, probably would do it against Baylor. If Baylor's ranked, I don't know, but I do think you got to be smart about how you do that, and if it's special, even if you do it too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that, and that's fine. That's not even that big of a deal. Who cares? But that Texas player getting pushed after the end of the game, I just think when you think of the worst of the fan bases, that's the worst of Texas fan base right there.
Yep.
Maybe not the absolute lowest worst, but that's bad fan behavior. There's no place for it, and it's just cowardly, if anything. Go try to hit that dude head up when he sees you coming, right? Not when, you're flying by in the flash of an eye and then you're running into a crowd of people to get away. How ridiculously weak is that on the part of the person who did that? I just think that's so childish and cowardly, and I would feel bad if I was that person. But then again, the type of person that does that doesn't even feel bad about it. So
here's what I would do. You stick that player and you stick that fan in a room.
Well, I don't know if you could legally do that, but
Well, saying,
I know what you mean.
Would you do that if that was what was the scenario you knew would be coming up, and no matter what stadiums and fans that we're talking about?
Oh, no, if that fan thought there was any chance of that, there's no way that they're even getting on the field in the first place. But I do think that kind of marred the celebration for Tech in a way, but doesn't take away from the win, none of that. And I do think there's a play on the part of some Texas people who – Let's turn the attention away from the loss and onto the bad Tech fan behavior. I do think there's some of that going on. So hopefully they find that person, they deal with them accordingly, they ban them from the Jones or whatever, and everybody can move on about their business. But in the end, a great win for Tech, and it's just bad. It's sad that a dumb fan had to kind of put a sour note on the whole thing.
Yeah. So Matthew Nichols, super chat, we appreciate it. $5. Please don't attribute the actions of an idiot to all of us. What if you judge Baylor by the worst thing and someone? I said that. I said it's happened to fan bases. I don't like it. I don't even like storming the field. I know some games are more energetic and emotional than others. It doesn't matter what fan base. If you storm the field, you better not contact anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody that played in the game or anybody on the coaching staff or around the program. And if you do and you get run over, that's you being in it's like jumping in front of running with the bulls. You know what the consequences might be. I'm done talking about it.
Well, I want to finish one point is like I don't need to imagine if people just did that for Baylor's fan base. Iowa State just did that all the past week, and everybody who plays them, especially after a loss, turns into every Baylor fan's of this because of what happened with Bryles years ago. So I don't need to imagine. I know what it's like when people paint with a broad brush, and I'm not painting Tech with a broad brush. I'm singling out that idiot who hopefully gets caught and punished in some sort of fashion that's, akin to the crime, so to speak. But, yeah, I know what that broad brush is like, and we still sit up here and do our thing, and I'm not going to blame, all Tech fans for that. So I get it.
And so I don't want to turn – there's two things I want to turn today into. We mentioned it because it's there. Number two, at least if you don't, we don't like to go down the rabbit hole of officiating that one call or two calls or three calls affects the game. I know that they can, and we have a couple of stories of a Pac-12 and ACC reprimanding or at least making decisions on calls. We will get to that. But I don't want to hear that. And you can do it. If you want to get on the chat room and bitch and moan all you want about it, that's fine. I'm not against you saying what you want to say. But we're not going to allow that to then overshadow anything that occurred, in my opinion. That's my opinion. That's my philosophy of what happened during the game, because then all of a sudden we forget about the fact Texas Tech beat Texas. Baylor beat Iowa State. Kansas beat Duke. All of that. And also that Kansas State was able to go into Norman and beat Oklahoma. Coaching changes. Collins, Paul, you've been saying this. He's done. Yeah. So is the AD at Georgia Tech. Yeah. We'll have a writer that covers Georgia Tech at 3:45.
Well, that was the AD's first hire was Geoff Collins. It did not go well. And Georgia Tech, and my top five is about their fits today. I think they need to approach things in the same way that Notre Dame or Stanford or schools with high academics do. I know there's a lot of buzz around Deion Sanders, and I'm saying Deion would not do well there. I don't think that's the fit that Deion is looking for just because he played a lot of his professional sports career in Atlanta. I think the Auburn job's going to come open, and I think Deion's going to throw his hat in the ring for that. But Georgia Tech, I think, needs to get somebody who's been a head coach before and is either someone who has been passed over for Power 5 jobs soon or someone who's dealt with a situation like that in their past where you kind of have unique – recruiting circle where you can still get good players, but you can't take a chance on whether they're going to get out of school or not.
Yeah, the AD's gone as well. He's also gone, so now Georgia Tech begins. Do you have the Pete Thamel tweet? Again, Paul, I know you do top fives. I hope I'm not. But here's Pete Thamel. The names for the Georgia Tech coaching job. Now, that doesn't mean these are candidates. That doesn't mean these are targeted. That doesn't mean they've even had any contact, or even if any of these guys are interested, although some of them are because they're looking for jobs. This is a name. Look at the list.
This is a copy and paste. It's basically what it is.
It is, but those are the names We want to put it up. That's there. We'll get into more with it with the Georgia Tech writer at 3:45.
And to be clear, what I mean about that is that's going to be like half the names that you see for every job that comes open from here on out. Like there's only so many coaches that are, in this mix, and there's only so many potential surprises. So, yeah, you're going to see Todd Monken mentioned for probably every job that comes up. You're going to see Jamie Chadwell mentioned for every job that comes up, and so on and so forth. So I wonder out of those how many – uniquely to Georgia Tech names there are, because Deion's going to be another guy who's not necessarily mentioned for every job because there's certain jobs we just know he won't go to. But any job that seems worthwhile, Deion's name's going to be there with Jamie Chadwell and Todd Monken and whoever, Matt Campbell and, Lance Leipold. And, it's going to be the same thing. So that's what I mean by copy and paste when it comes to that. But I do know that they are in – rough shape financially. I remember hearing that a couple weeks back and then reading that again in a couple of the write-ups about this job. So that does provide, a unique element to this, because I wonder how much of an issue that really is and how much that means, in terms of what somebody's walking into with what they can work with. But, yeah, that's not a job where – it's just the same old as everybody else. There's a very high educational standard there and, uniqueness to that job. So I do think Atlanta as a metro and a home base will be appealing, but it's not like that's Atlanta, like Georgia Tech. You know what I mean? Like that's not what you necessarily think of. So, I'm curious how they kind of pitch this job, because it's unique from different angles and, there's been success there recently, but there definitely wasn't with Geoff Collins. That was a ticking time bomb.
Another coaching situation, Brandon Marcello, who we've had on this show, who covers Boise State, on Dirk Cutter now has been installed as the offensive coordinator after they fired the offensive coordinator. They lost to UTEP on Friday. They're off to a rugged start. Jeremiah Dickey and Boise State have to be monitoring what's going on there because they are slipping. And UTEP's a pretty good football team, but Boise State was better usually. I'm not saying this year. They're not. But they're kind of slipping. And so Boise State now, even though it's been only a short term for the head coach, you wonder what may be simmering there.
Oh, if Dirk Cutter's been put on my staff and I'm Andy Avalos and maybe I signed off on that rule, I'm nervous based on what Dirk Cutter has done to other head coaches on top of him in the past. Ask your friend Lovie Smith.
There you go.
How about the fact that he's also already been Boise State's head coach, and they're bringing him back 20 years after the fact to be head coach again? I think that says quite a bit, is that not only what he's done in the NFL, but here's a guy who was your head coach 20-plus years ago, and you're bringing him back in this situation. You can only fire so many coordinators before eventually the arrow turns to you, and Andy Avalos hasn't been in place very long now, but that is not Boise the way we think of it anymore, and they're losing steam pretty quickly, and I hate that for Jeremiah Dickey, but I do think you have to kind of start looking around and going, okay, how long can we let this thing slip before, we start to enter kind of the danger zone here, and it's just really bad timing given all of the conference movement over the last couple of years and what still may be to come, like who knows in that regard, but, Boise's certainly an institution that feels like they want to be able to jump up and grab a spot, grab a life raft if there's one that becomes available. And right now, unfortunately, their football program's at its probably lowest point that it's been in a long time. So, didn't necessarily expect this with Andy Avalos this early, but here they are, and they're going to have to do some work pretty quick to get this thing turned around.
From Michael K19th, C fan, Dirk Cutter all over the place. He coached Illinois. He coached Tampa Bay. He's coached at UTEP. Is that right? Am I right about UTEP? I believe that's right.
Yeah.
And if I'm missing 3 or 4 other schools, that's fine.
Arizona State.
One other note to get to. The Big 12 Co-Defensive Player of the Year, Player of the Week, Bryson Jackson. I asked Dave Aranda about him. Travis had asked me to ask this question, and so I did bring it up to him today. We'll have him one-on-one just after 4, about Bryson Jackson, not just a guy that's on the field when it's pass rushing situations, but trying to find spots for him and opportunities for him to get on the field. He was named Co-Defensive Player of the Week for Baylor in the Big 12. The Big 12 schedule, 11 o'clock games, Oklahoma at TCU. TCU coming off the win against SMU. Texas Tech at Kansas State. That game is an ESPN Plus game. Now, I think that decision was made last week, but that should be on TV somewhere. And I understand, I get it, like Oregon State, USC was on the Pac-12 network or whatever. Texas Tech and K-State, something should change there, even though I guess that decision was already made. Oklahoma State at Baylor, 2:30. Iowa State, Kansas, 2:30. West Virginia, Texas, 6:30. And Tim Brando and Spencer Tillman will have that game. And Tim Brando was saying he thought they were going to get Oklahoma State Baylor, but that game is at 2:30. Texas and West Virginia, 6:30 on FS1.
Yeah, I thought Baylor after this weekend would have a fighting chance at getting a better time slot. And it's weird to even start talking about time slots now. Like, I don't know how much of a regular conversation this is going to be each week, but I thought that they would at least get a little evening action, but 2:30. I mean, not only that, you just mentioned one of the games in that window, but there's a ton of games in that window, like 50 games in that window. There's like Alabama, Arkansas is a 2:30, and there's a bunch of games. So that sucks, I think. I mean, this is a big game. This is, in my opinion, the winner of this game kind of grabs the lead reins. And with the Big 12 the way that it is, like, that's going to change probably week to week. But I really do think if you're Baylor and you go on the road and beat Iowa State and then come back home and beat Oklahoma State, like, you're sitting pretty dang good early on in the Big 12. If you're Oklahoma State, you just got off a bye, and you open up Big 12 play on the road at Baylor, that's a big win to start Big 12 play. So I think that's a big game in terms of the conference standings early on, and I think that's a shame that it's going to be sort of lost amidst 100 other games at that time period. So that's unfortunate, but, if it's a good enough game, then people will find their way there. So.
All right, a couple of injury updates. Geoff Howe on his Twitter feed with Steve Sarkisian. Xavier Worthy, who went out at the end of the first half, he didn't play the second half against Texas Tech, a dynamic player. Lower left leg, had x-rays negative. Still, today he said day to day, said they hope to get him back at some point later in the week. And, of course, that's also until we'll see how he handles treatment. UHD defensive end Derek Parrish, torn biceps against Rice in what was an ugly game. Needs surgery. If, in fact, he has surgery, he is out for the rest of the year.
And Anaya Smith is out.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, for A&M, towards Achilles out for the year. That was a hard scene to watch him and his dad. Having to go through that. That's really, really tough news for A&M, who is down to kind of Devin Achane as their one game changer.
Freaking told y'all, man.
Yeah.
Freaking told y'all. Stupid picks. Like, this is. Man, I flip-flop on my dumb picks every week.
Yeah,
and
they're hard games. They're not easy.
It's not even that. It's like I just don't trust myself. And I was on Friday and Saturday like, man, I'm telling y'all, I just have a weird feeling about this A&M Arkansas game. And there's Paul, Mr. A&M, and I understand why. Like, no, come on, what are they going to do? Sure enough, choke Arkansas in that game. Like, come on, man. But, yeah, I mean, A&M now, they are really, man, hurting for offensive talent.
They had two guys, right?
They had a two-man show, basically.
Smith and Achane, and Achane's phenomenal. I mean, that's all. You wonder, how does he? Well, it's kind of like Deuce Vaughn. You know he's going to get the ball. You just can't find him and get him. By the time he does, he's 10 yards down the field. A&M had really two legitimate weapons. They have some young ones, too. But without Smith, they still won the game
A&M
against Arkansas.
They have not had a player like Achane since Leland McElroy. And they've had some good running backs.
What was the Williams kid that they had? Travion Williams was pretty.
He's pretty good.
Pretty good.
But Achane is a changer. And again, Leland McElroy goes back to like 92, 93. When they had three good running backs and all guys that were NFL dudes in Greg Hill and Rodney Thomas and him. But they have not had a play like that in a long time.
And if Texas doesn't get Worthy back, I'm sorry, they had Nayor go out, remember, at the start of before the year began. That would be a very costly injury for them, and it was against Texas Tech as well.
Yeah, well, let's stick with A&M. Max Johnson, I think you at least know you've got a little something there compared to what you had with Haynes King. You're not going to get Heisman play necessarily, but I think you do feel somewhat better about your situation. And, yeah, now you're kind of one-dimensional if you're A&M with this injury. Anaya Smith, that was horrible for him. He's had a rough year where he had the DWI thing that popped up like a month or so, or whenever that was, a couple months back, and just the A&M struggles, now this injury, and it just sucks, man. I really hate it for that young man because he's an explosive, fun player to watch, and that's just really unfortunate for them. But, man, how do you – Arkansas, how do you keep letting this happen against A&M, man?
You know what it reminds me of? During the great rivalry that Nebraska-Oklahoma was back in the 70s, there was – now sometimes OU just thumped them. But there became almost, you just waited for it to happen. Something was going to happen, and Oklahoma was going to win the game. They both were good, but that's kind of happened with A&M and Arkansas in that series up in Arlington.
And I give Jimbo and company a lot of credit. I mean, they could have easily lost that game and just went about their business and continued, perhaps crumbling. But I think, now there's certainly questions with Smith's injury, but we'll see how they kind of fight through the rest of this thing. I think that win at least gave them a little bit of a jolt. Now, going to Xavier Worthy, if he's out for any significant amount of time, I think you saw in that second half for Texas kind of how, without Ewers there and without Worthy, there's not a whole lot else. I mean, there's Bijan, obviously, and there's Roshan, but there ain't a whole – yeah, but –
well, he's.
I know. I just feel like we've been talking about him for like 4 years on potential.
He's had a good start to the year.
I know, but I'm saying, are you putting him in the Bijan category?
No, what I'm saying is they have more than just Xavier Worthy, but in the passing game, he is. That's
a huge blow.
Yeah,
like that's a
absolutely.
huge blow to think that the Whittington's just going to take over, and that's all I'm saying is he's a fine player, but that's bad news for Texas depending on how long he's out. If he's out, if he's not, then I'm sure that that'll be okay. But if he's out, man, they've really had a bad streak of injury bug.
All right, here's a note. Kansas State is the only team over the last 30 years with a winning road record against Oklahoma, minimum of at least 2 games played. They're now 6-5 in Norman. 6-5 in Norman, and some of those games were against really good Oklahoma teams. 6-5 in Norman, including the win 41-34 as Martinez had. I'm not putting him in that conversation. That performance was Heisman-like, and they've already played a game. He wasn't against Tulane. It wasn't even early on. That just like exploded for him. And for a young man that used to always have that deadly mistake, I just noticed he was protecting the football better. Whether he can do it week in and week out, I don't know.
Yeah, Craig, we kind of whiffed on that one. We said, can Oklahoma's offense on their worst day not score as many points as Kansas State? We all kind of said no, and that can. I mean, Kansas State can do that, but Adrian Martinez took the super soldier serum or something the other night because he was unbelievable.
Well, K-State managed to beat Oklahoma. Pretty much the only way that Kansas State could beat Oklahoma was with a huge Adrian Martinez running game because he wasn't going to do it throwing the ball. And barring you letting Deuce Vaughn run for 250 yards and 4 scores, he wasn't going to do it by himself. So how are they going to do it? How are they going to do it? How are they going to score points? Because, it's Deuce Vaughn or bust pretty much this entire year. And now you finally, you see why people thought in the preseason, Adrian Martinez at Kansas State, with his running ability, if they can just get him to limit some of the mistakes, wasn't that the entire conversation?
Absolutely.
Was if they can just limit some of the crazy, dumb stuff that he can do from time to time that can cost you a game, he's pretty good. Like, he's a pretty good athlete. He can definitely run. And so, going into that game, I just assumed that Brent Venables and Oklahoma's defense wasn't going to allow him to just run wild on them, knowing that, hey, bottle up Deuce as best you can, and then just don't let Martinez go crazy, and you're going to win this game because they don't have a whole lot of other options to hit you with. And,
he did throw for 234 on top of the 148 yards of the ground and a touchdown. But the thing, he did not throw a pick. He did not fumble the football. He did not create the missed opportunities. He hit on almost everything. Now, is that Kansas State from what we saw Saturday night in Norman going forward? This conference is not wide open because Texas and Oklahoma lost. I heard that a lot late Saturday night. It's not wide open because those two lost. It's wide open because, it may take a while before anyone separates. We'll find part of that separation maybe on Saturday, Oklahoma State in Waco.
Yeah, I mean, it's also easier to throw the ball when you're running for 150 yards by yourself. I mean, he went crazy, and that was a great game by Martinez and a great game by Kansas State, and they just seemed to have Oklahoma's number. But, I thought they would have, done a better job in limiting him after a while, and he just went nuts. And that was a Oklahoma offense that was suffering from Gabriel misfires, and also just the fact that, hey, all of a sudden you get one area of your offense shut down or keyed in on, and you're all of a sudden just not allowed to basically do what you want to do at a fast pace. We've seen that here in Waco when that offense kind of gets limited to, being a little bit more one-dimensional, how fast that can go from fast to flat tire. And I think we saw some of that on Saturday with, Gabriel not being totally sharp and just that offense not clicking the way that you thought it was going to.
They were multiple. He had 330. They ran for 220, but they just ran in between the 20s. Oklahoma did, it seemed like to me.
There's also a lot of penalties. They had a ton of penalties that cut drives, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is when you're running that offense, if there's a little thing that goes wrong, it's not quite, as operating on full cylinders. And I think they saw one of the bad sides to that style of offense is you can get a lot of penalties, especially false starts and things of that nature. And that certainly was something that hurt them on Saturday night. But, give a lot of credit to K-State for their game plan and just being the better team.
All right. Like Donnell said, Adrian Martinez went Super Cyan on Oklahoma. Yep. There was a comment or two, Tennessee and Texas Tech from Katie Rader, the only two teams in the top 25, or the only two teams in the country with 2 wins over top 25 opponents, Tennessee and Texas Tech. Obviously, Texas Tech's strength of schedule is very good. Houston Rice, a lot of discussion about Dana Holgorsen, who said, I'm not taking responsibility for certain things some of the players dealt with or did as far as penalties or some sloppy play. There's a lot of discomfort there. West Virginia fans are enjoying that. Who have we not? USC found a way. I mean, Oregon State, 4 interceptions in that game against USC, and it took a late couple of minutes left touchdown drive from Caleb Williams and company. That was one to think about. UCF, Houston, Brigham Young, and Cincinnati all won over the weekend. Not all of them pretty, but all 4 of the incoming teams won.
USC, I think they're going to get a couple of these, of course, Oregon State, Jonathan Smith's done a really good job up there. And same with Jake Diker at Washington State. Both those guys are doing a really good job toiling in relative anonymity at their schools because of where they are. And at a point in their school's history that's kind of important for them to be good, given what's going on with their conference and where they actually stand market size-wise compared to everybody else in that league. But Washington State and Oregon was a crazy good game. And then, of course, Oregon State and USC was down to the wire. Of course, I didn't see it. I'm a DirecTV subscriber, so I don't get the Pac-12 network.
I don't either. A lot of people were watching feeds of others. I think Max Olson said he found a way to pirate the feed. We'll have him on Thursday.
Well, don't rat him out.
Miami and Michigan, he put it up on Twitter.
Oh.
Miami and Michigan State, gone, out after losses that they had. The Vols with a nice win against Florida. They were favored to win, and they did. Very competitive game. And I don't know if we've missed, at the end of the Arkansas game, I have 42 years plus whatever years watched football. I've seen balls off the crossbar, off the upright. I have never seen one hit the absolute tip of the upright and just pop in the air either way. Had it gone backwards and gone over, it's good because if you go over the top of the crossbar, the field goal counts. That was bizarre.
But that could have been a million things. Like, what if there was a little glob of paint on the top of the thing? That you think about the butterfly effect of all the laws of physics that had to happen to make that. The ball probably had to hit it on the right spot in the ball.
It had to hit it on the crown of the football.
Yeah.
At the very tip of and it just happened to be the way, it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. Anything else you guys want to talk about from the college football weekend?
All right. Miami losing to Middle Tennessee State, a team that has never beaten a ranked opponent before, is a pretty big deal for MTSU, which is in Murfreesboro, which is where my fiance is from. But MTSU getting that, that's a huge win for them. And Tyler Van Dyke, you can see how things change, not only for Tyler Van Dyke, but for Josh Gaddis. Josh Gaddis, the offensive coordinator, was getting head coach buzz and might still, but so far at Miami, they're stuck in neutral.
Yeah, from Jeffrey Thompson, USC has always hated going to the Pac Northwest, Corvallis in particular, hard to get to, 800-mile flight. Well, they're about to have more flights longer than that. But, there's certain places, for whatever reason, that certain teams play better against others in Oregon State, USC, like I've said about Kansas State and also Oklahoma.
Can't wait to hear about how Miami's awesome NIL deals are going to bring them back. I thought that was already happening, but I guess that was for next year or something, I guess.
It'll happen eventually. It's eventually.
Yeah.
That ever...
One note about this earlier was the fact that someone said, yes, Texas A&M has injuries, and Anaya Smith is a fantastic player. But aren't they supposed to be deep enough out now after the last 2 or 3 recruiting classes to overcome an injury, even with a dynamic player?
I mean, I think there's you can overcome to a certain extent, but I don't know how many Anaya Smiths and, A-chains and whatnot you have just lying around. I see your point. You should be able to build up depth to where – 1 or 2 injuries don't completely derail your season. So yeah, I'm sort of in the middle on that. I in partial agreement that they should probably have more firepower than they do. That's kind of surprising that they're sort of limited to a 2-man show, and now they're 50% of that at this point. But at the same time, like, those are pretty good players.
Well, Michael, go ahead.
I think also that if you have a quarterback that's dynamic and they don't have that, whether it is Max Johnson or Haynes King, then those things, if the playmakers make the quarterback as opposed to the quarterback making the playmaker, sometimes when you lose those guys, it's evident what you have at quarterback. And A&M's got Max Johnson, who can win games in the SEC, and he's proven that. But again, he's not Bryce Young, and he's not KJ Jefferson on the other side, who, in spite of one bad play, still had a great game.
Bad's not even the word.
That's
not even the word.
For a guy that big to leave his feet makes no sense whatsoever, and you always lose your leverage, no matter if you weigh 150 or 225. Michael, again with this one, that one I didn't think about this. They're playing in Jerry's World. They're playing at Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium. The goalpost for the NFL is higher than a college football upright. I didn't think, why would they not change it for a college game? They could change it.
You think they're thinking about that?
Well, I mean,
probably now, but were you thinking about that? Have you ever thought about that?
No, I haven't. I'm saying, why weren't those who handle facilities when they go into pro stadiums like the Sugar Bowl? I don't know. Was that one different? Maybe it is. But that's an interesting. I don't care whether I've been thinking about it, but Michael, for you to bring that up, I appreciate it.
I'm not necessarily asking you in particular. I'm saying, are you thinking about it? I'm saying, like, I don't know how many people, even the ones in charge, are thinking about, like, well, we better get the regulation field goal height. Like, I just don't know that. I mean, it's their job. I get it, but I don't know how much of a difference there is. That's like top of mind for the facilities folks. That's what I'm saying.
It should be. Maybe that's where your football operations guy, Dennis Polian at Baylor or whoever that might be.
But that's also, you just said, that's the only time in any of our lives
that I've ever
seen
it.
that happen.
Yeah.
So to change the field goals because of that, just like, and look, Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium has a lot of this. There's a rampant disease among the fans about the stupid windows, because one time Jason Witten got the sun in his face, and they're like, oh, well, they got to put a curtain up. You know where you have the sun in your face? Everywhere without a roof.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear about Georgia Tech. We'll talk with Kelly Quinlan and the perspective of what's going on there with of course, the head coach and AD both being out. Dave Aranda and Joey Maguire both in the 4 o'clock hour. Tim Brando, Fox Sports, on many things college football. He will be at the Texas West Virginia game. He was up in the Washington State's game against Oregon. This is 365 Sports. And also, again, Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem, and it's just right there behind the bank. Sometimes you go on Google Maps, it'll show you the old place, which is across the street, which if you're standing in that lot, you're looking at nothing. But if you look across the street, it's right there, Riverbend Liquor and Wine. They've got great customer service, the best selection of locally sourced whiskeys in the area, whether it's Devil's River, TX, Balcones, Garrison Brothers, they've got it. There's many others I can list. They've got those there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Not only that, craft beers, roster cycling right now. It is fall, so that means your pumpkin brews are out. Your Oktoberfest brews are out. Those kind of things are there in their lot at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Plus, great promotions to have all the time. You can find it on Instagram. A drive-through window that is so fast, it's ridiculous. They could have a NASCAR pit crew running that thing. They're great. Everything you need is right there. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank. Find them now on DoorDash.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco. Because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big this month on a new 2022 Dodge Charger GT and get $500 bonus cash with 2.9% for 72 months. Plus, first responders get an extra $500 off your purchase. Stop by today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next.
In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Kelly Quinlan, Jacket Online publisher, covering Georgia Tech with us on 365 Sports. Georgia Tech, Todd Stansberry out as AD, and also Geoff Collins out as the football coach. And Kelly, thanks for your time. This appeared to be imminent. Is it like we don't want the AD there anymore either, because we obviously want somebody else to pick the head coach?
Yeah, I mean, Todd Stansberry went into the search, in 2018 when Paul Johnson retired. He got caught kind of flat-footed by it, by all accounts. And, most ADs keep a list or have a plan or something in case this happens. And he didn't really seem to have one. And then he went kind of lone wolf on the search. And then he signed him to a 7-year, 100% guaranteed contract for a guy that, won, 14 games, I think, at Temple in 2 years, and lost to an FCS team, and had some kind of ugly things on his head coaching resume, and really never been anywhere more than 2 years of his career. He'd been kind of a job hopper. So all of that kind of started to bottle up on Stansberry, and then he gave him the vote of confidence, and they were considering firing him last year. He said no, give him another year, and basically tied himself to Geoff. So at that point, I think it was inevitable. He also had like a controversy where he refused to pay his buyout to Oregon State, and Georgia Tech had to bail him out. And so all of those things together were kind of too much, I think, for the people in charge, and the whole environment around the program has been kind of sour this entire season. So I think it was time to make some changes for them.
This is a program with a national championship in most of our lifetimes in 1990. I mean, I know that's 30 plus years ago, but it wasn't like it was that long ago where they were regularly good in winning games, even up to, the first few years of Paul Johnson. So what do they have to do to reset themselves to be the Georgia Tech that they were?
It's funny, 08, 09, 2014, they won the Orange Bowl, finished in the top 15, I think, that year. 2016, they had a really good season. And then, the last 2 years of Paul Johnson were down a little bit. And then they clearly made a bit of a tactical error with hiring Geoff Collins. There's a lot of different reasons why, but I think you need someone that can develop players. This is a place that's not, Alabama, Texas, A&M or whoever. Like, it's not this place that's going to attract, 5-star guys. They don't have that type of NIL money either to keep those guys. So you have to be constantly developing players. It's, a better job than, say, Wake Forest, but it's not that far off from what Dave Clawson is doing there, where you develop guys, or Matt Campbell or different guys. There's a lot of these coaches that found a way to develop players, develop talent, and have a consistent product, and that's what Georgia Tech needs. They don't necessarily have to do what Paul Johnson did, but I think you need system you're recruiting to, whatever that is very well defined. You're looking for these type of players, and it's not, what Geoff Collins was doing, which was trying to clone the Nick Saban model. And, I'm going to take a 6'6" defensive end with this size reach and turn them into something. That's not really how it works. You need to find guys who can play football that you can develop.
Kelly, is there anything, and you kind of mentioned some of it there as far as like having to find talent and develop and all that, but, I did remember hearing on a podcast a while back and then reading a bit in one of the articles after Geoff Collins firing about financial issues that Georgia Tech's going through. Like, what are some of the unique challenges that potentially rear their heads during this upcoming coaching search?
So they have basically a debt that rolled into a stadium expansion that was unnecessary back when George O'Leary was coaching right before he left for Notre Dame. And they spent, $100 million or whatever it was on that, and they've rolled other things into that debt. They've, stadium renovations, other projects. It's $200 million. It's a $15 million a year, $12, $15 million a year loan there that you're taking off the top of all of your athletic revenue. Then you have academic restrictions they're not quite Stanford, but they're pretty high. You have a certain number of exceptions. You can take kids to that, but they still have to be NCAA qualifiers. The other thing that's unique about Georgia Tech is you have to basically take some form of calculus, regardless of what you major in. So, and there's no liberal arts majors either. So it really narrows the pool a little bit off the top in terms of recruiting, what you're targeting, particularly with linemen. And so that's sort of the A restriction. And B, you're surrounded on all sides by SEC teams and Clemson. So you have Alabama, Auburn to the west, you have Georgia to the east, killing people. You have Florida and Florida State, Miami below you, and then you have Tennessee above you. It is a very picked over recruiting area these days. So I think all of that has really changed the game a little bit, and you're batting from behind, and you're capped a little bit financially. This is not a place where they have giant reserves of cash either.
So would you say they have to get a coach who maybe is used to dealing with special circumstances?
I think you can find somebody that's willing to take that challenge on. Then you need to find someone that's either A, young and hungry, or B, is looking to prove themselves. Maybe they're just, there's some sort of slight against them. The guy that comes to my mind is Jamie Chadwell, who hasn't gotten a look yet. He basically runs actually sort of a triple option offense out of the gun. I think there might be a distaste for that from some fans right now, but there's something out there, whether it's, Tyson Hilton at Western Kentucky running the air raid. There's some sort of system you can recruit to, or you can just find a really sharp guy who will build this thing, like Matt Campbell or Dave Clawson. It's just a question of identifying that person, and they have to find an AD first, which is a whole other complicating factor in all of this.
Paul Johnson was really good there, but he ran the bone, right?
Triple option.
Yeah.
Triple option.
And had the history where he was from. Gailey was, a guy that was a pro coach as well. George O'Leary, Bobby Ross surely didn't have any kind. Where was he prior to Georgia Tech?
He was in Maryland. He left when all that stuff happened with Len Bias dying, and their whole athletic department went crazy there, and he left during that time and came over to Georgia Tech, and then he left for the NFL after I guess it was the year after the national championship, after the 91 season.
Yeah, so they've had a mixture of those who have been in programs similar or not. But, yeah, I would think you'd want somebody that understands the dynamic.
And that's also going back 30 years at this point. It's a little bit of a different game here at this stage.
Yeah, Kelly, one of the names that I see pop up, and I think it's because people just say he was a big celebrity and star athlete in Atlanta. He's doing well at Jackson State. Is Deion Sanders. I think Deion is a fit for a great many jobs. I don't know if Georgia Tech is one of them.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think my concern there is just how good of a coach is he. I think he can recruit and do those things. Obviously, where he is, they don't have the type of academic standards. And the thing with his program is modeled after sort of what Bobby Bowden did. They have better athletes at that level than everyone they play, right? They're out-athleting people as well. You're not going to do that at Georgia Tech. You're not going to out-athlete Georgia or Clemson. So I think, that's where I would draw the line. There is some interest there. I think there's some connections, business-wise and otherwise. And Deion's beloved in Atlanta, and it would certainly move the needle. But I don't know if it's a sustainable thing. I think he's a guy that would like to coach in the NFL eventually. So even if he did well, how long is he going to stay? There's a lot of questions I have about him. And I feel like I need to see more of a sample size, before I would jump in, given how precarious sort of the situation is with Georgia Tech right now.
So Kelly, just your thoughts on Brent Key taking over as the interim. I mean, I think it's probably, given the coaching list and all of that, highly doubtful he'll be the top dog for this spot to just stay there. But what are kind of the thoughts surrounding him taking over as interim, and what are the thoughts on just the fact that it's only 1 month into the season. There's a long way to go the rest of the way. Kind of what's next for Georgia Tech, so to speak. Having all of these plates in the air at one time.
Yeah, I think what did Collins in was just fundamentally unsound thing. Football, they've had 4 punts blocked this season, which I've never seen in my entire life by any team. With Brent, he'll have the guys playing hard. It's interesting because, we mentioned George O'Leary. George O'Leary became the head coach at Georgia Tech because Bill Lewis got fired in the middle of the season. He became the interim coach. He actually didn't win anything. He won 1 game or something with him. And then he got a shot at it the next year and became the head coach, and then obviously won and did a good job. But, maybe Brent's hoping to repeat that whole thing. O'Leary's his mentor. They were together. He was his coach at Georgia Tech, and he worked for him at UCF. So, I'll be curious to see how all of that plays out. Brent is a guy who loves Georgia Tech. I mean, the thing with Geoff Collins, too, is he loves Georgia Tech, too. He just wasn't the right guy. He didn't have it, whatever it is. So it'll be interesting to see what Brent does. Kind of, this is an audition for him, which is not necessarily a bad thing for Brent. He's a good guy. I think he'll instill some toughness that I feel like's been missing, but I just don't know. Could they limp into a bowl? Yeah, they're 2 of their 3 hardest games were Clemson and Ole Miss, which are both in the rearview mirror now too. So they really just have that Georgia game at the end of the season, and every other game is sort of a little bit of a toss-up. They'll have a tough game this week at Pitt at 9, but other than that, I mean, you guys saw it. The ACC Coastal was 1-7 or 1-6 last week. Pitt had the only win against Rhode Island. It's not like they're walking into Murderer's Row either.
Now, Stansbury, the AD who was fired, was he not at UCF prior to Georgia Tech, or at one point was he at UCF?
Yeah, so Todd worked at Georgia Tech, and then he went to Central Florida, worked his way up, I think he went to Oregon State for a while, and then Central Florida became the AD there, then went to Oregon State, became AD there. So, yeah, Todd knows Brent Key, knew O'Leary. The famous quote from UCF people was that George O'Leary used to tell people that Todd Stansbury was the AD for everything but football, and that George was the AD of the football program, to give you an idea of the power dynamic at UCF. So, he's had a lot of experience. It's just, Todd played football at Georgia Tech. He was a letterman in the 80s. It's, a tough situation. All these people have a lot of ties. Geoff Collins, this was his 3rd different time on the staff at Georgia Tech. He had started as a GA and worked his way up. And then he was, a recruiting office guy, and then he went to Bama after that and then started coaching again. So, these people do have deep relationships here, and that's the tougher part of it. And they're not bad guys. All of them are decent human beings. It's not like Bobby Petrino's out there, being a jerk to people. That wasn't the case at all. It's just the results just weren't there, and progress wasn't there on the field.
Kelly, thank you. Good luck with the search going forward, especially so early in the year. Now Nebraska, Georgia Tech are in the middle of that or at the beginning of it. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
No problem, guys.
Kelly, Quinlan covers Georgia Tech for Jacket Online, and he's the publisher of that particular site. I mentioned the one story at Boise State offensive coordinator, of course, out. Quarterback Hank Bachmeier now expected or has entered the transfer portal.
Yeah, that's fine. He'd kind of been the guy there for a little while now, and I don't think that was working. You look at the results, no disrespect to him. Sometimes getting a change of scenery is good, but yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a big dagger for Boise State.
All right, Tim Brando coming up in about,
I did want to make mention, and this is not me going see, I told you so, but, I was talking about Oklahoma and just, kind of like how that old style of football that we watched for so many years in Waco, how it's fun and it's high flying and it's fast paced, but there are some downsides to it, especially if you're getting penalties or, not getting off the field, things like that. And so it was just funny to me. I was just looking at all their stats, and 550 yards and 34 points, and Gabriel had 4 touchdowns. But Jeff Lebby's post-game press conference, what do you think it was about? It was about penalties. It was about slow starts. It was about crowd noise, and how it was all the stuff that we heard every time there was a little off, a result in Baylor football. So I guess that's one of those things when you see coaches down the line all these years later. It's just funny to see kind of the same stuff you were hearing 7-8 years ago, just at a different place at a different time, and you can just kind of smile and go yep, we know exactly what's going on there.
Just wait until they get terrified when it rains because they know that they can't go fast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant at times to watch, and it was breathtaking, and then again at times it was man.
And that's all I was getting at. It was just if you have penalties and you're a little bit off, and if a defense limits your run game, Michigan State. Things can get sideways really quickly, and especially if your quarterback's not totally on the ball. I think Gabriel has some throws that he missed, obviously. But, Oklahoma's going to be fine. I just thought that was funny reading those Lebby comments, and great win again for K-State.
Texas Tech has been reprimanded for the storming of the field and also fined $50,000 for what happened post-game against Texas, so everyone can be happy now.
I think, and this is probably true for the media in any one city, I can give you a game plan. If you called me up and said, give me a game plan to beat the Lebby offense, I said, well, one, you better hope that it rains because that really will help. But if it doesn't, make sure they get a lot of penalties and do this, and then it can throw off because we know that that's how it happened. And if you ask me to go coach a game against Kim Mulkey right now, I can tell you, I don't know if I'll win, but I know the game plan is going to befuddle her. I'm going to foul a lot.
I'm
going to shoot threes until my nose
until
bleeds.
they start calling it, and you have enough players on the bench and just jack up a bunch of threes. So that's that. When we come back, Dave Aranda had a chance every other week to sit down with him on many things Baylor football, including the win in Ames and the game coming up against Oklahoma State. A note or two about Lemire, Snacks, and Neal and Bryson Jackson that we'll bring up.
And we hadn't even talked about the game at
No,
all.
we didn't, and we will. And Dave Aranda's next, and then we'll follow up with that discussion, plus Oklahoma State coming into town for a game at 2:30 this Saturday. We'll have that, plus Joey Maguire. Chance to visit with him earlier today on their win against Texas. And I did ask him about the comment about the country will soon find out that everything runs through Lubbock. I asked him about that and his response to that and more. Sikkim, 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Ideal MRI. In the Central Texas marketplace, what they do and specialize in is exactly what they say, MRI. $497 is all it will cost you. $497 every single time, and sometimes less than that. They will help you file insurance to lower the cost. But think about lowering the cost of an MRI that is on average around $1,100. Some of them might cost you $1,500 or $2,000. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace. It is worth contacting them. Carl drove his wife up from Austin because they couldn't find a place that would be any cheaper than about $1,000 or so. And they came up here. They had the appointment. Everything was great when they got there. The Texas specialist, everything greeted them perfectly. And this is not just some fly-by-night machine. This is state-of-the-art technology, an MRI machine that I've been in a handful of times as well. Big-time facility, idealmri.com.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Well, play action. They got him, and it's Ben Sims right there, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Baylor.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Reese over 100 yards with a chance for an exclamation point. Touchdown, Baylor!
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Baylor football coach Dave Aranda with me, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Did Brigham Young help in Ames?
I think so. I think, I would love to say that that we didn't need it, but it does appear that helped us. I think sometimes young people, and I'm looking at my processes too and things that I could do better, that it certainly helped going through it. Is better understood than just talking about it.
The eyes that you mentioned after Brigham Young, did you even sense that in Ames?
No. Yeah, none of it. Mm-mm.
You have a football team that knows how to win, expects to win. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that from them day in and day out with the process, the culture, the words that are used?
I do. I think some of the disconnect, if I could use that word, and maybe that's too strong of a word, but I think some of the issues that we've been working through is just the youth of the team, right? Some of the older veteran players communicating standards and expectations, some of the younger players, kind of how that looks, how the youth of the team is going to look at, a success. And is everything always going to, if you put in the work, does it always going to look like that? How to handle success, right? A loss, how to handle a loss, right? How to get back if you get knocked down, to get back up. Like, what does that look like? And there's just so many kind of layers prior to even you get to the surface and the things that everybody around sees. There's so many things that are down below that are really kind of foundational things, and that really, as you talk about, a lot of times people just kind of gloss over because they're not really connecting it to experience. So the experience is really the greatest teacher, and so there's a fair amount of all of that going on daily.
How do you keep a team from playing the game on Wednesday?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think you try to have a build up to the week. You try to emphasize the little things over the big things, and you try to build it to continually kind of push to where this is an inside out process. So we talked about last week the Buffalo Bills, and they played Monday night game, mm-hmm. and Coach Mar Levy was there, and where else would you rather be than right here, right now? And so I talked about him as a coach and some of his accomplishments, and then I showed a little quick video that kind of highlighted him. And then we showed I think there's some guy with his phone had it down on the ground when Jim Kelly introduced him, and he kind of comes up and then he says what he says, and the whole crowd just comes alive. And so just the ability, man, to like transcend all the technique and scheme, and to when you are authentically you, and you're not trying to be anybody else, and he's doing Shakespeare and reading poetry to his team, and he's doing all that. And I'm talking about this for the players more, for us as coaches, but then you can handle the vulnerability part good too. So it's like you're in a big stage and you lose, but you lose as a human. You don't lose as a blaming, shaming, all this other thing. That when you go through that, right, here's what's possible, just the connection you can make with just a whole community when that chant was going on. And so we have something I've showed the team quite a bit of, like the wins, the losses, the praise, the criticism, right, the rehab, the betrayals, all of it. And so I look at his face, here's a guy that's been through all of that, and this is how you win in all of that, and this is how you become in all of that. And so I think we try to get our emphasis on that. And so that is not trying to win this game. That is not trying to, get this ranking. That is not trying to win this spot in these 4 teams. I think if we keep it on the other example, I think those other things will come.
Not many freshmen play college football at pretty much any level, but you have to have trust in them too. Richard Reese has gained your trust. He was brought up during the presser as well. Is it easier for a skill position player as a freshman to play than anywhere else?
Probably so. Yeah, it's a good question. I think anything with the line of scrimmage, there's such a difference in strength and maturity, and I think skill-wise, where there still needs to be great execution. I think a lot of times there's enough space for the athleticism to make it right, where I think line of scrimmage-wise, the room for error is so reduced because of the close quarters, and the need for strength is so emphasized. It's easier for skill guys.
Lemire, Lorando Snacks, Devin Neal, a lot of younger players seem to make plays, and it doesn't mean they haven't before. Is that the growth of the program from like a grass growing during the early spring into the summer?
Yeah, I think their confidence is increasing, and I think they're playing hard and they're practicing well. And you look at the weeks the last week that those guys had was their best week, and then they come out and play well, and so it's really cool to see, and we'd like to build on that.
The SEC has elite teams, and probably more than any other conference. But it does appear as if the Big 12 from top to bottom is very deep. And that doesn't mean just this year because of teams that won or didn't win. Do you feel that in this conference?
I do. I think I know there's great coaches. I know there's great culture in our conference. And I think there's a great connection with the team. And so it's not an outfit with maybe a group of really freakish athletes doing this or doing that. And while we do have great athletes, it's not that. It's more of teams winning as a team. And I think that's why you have so many games that are just down to the wire, because they continue to fight, and they can, there's a belief in their brothers to their left and right. And so I think that will make for some entertaining games. That'll make for a lot of nail-biting games.
You mentioned Bryson Jackson has gained confidence. Is he now someone you play him not just on passing downs, you just want to find a way to get him on the field?
Yeah, so I mean his motor never stops. So we track, the 20 miles per hour, and he is one of the top guys in that. I think he is the top guy that consistently runs that in practice, in games. I mean, his motor never stops, and so the more that we play him, the better we are.
One more thing on the transfer portal. You guys looked at wide receivers. Did you actually ever look at that because of the youth of your position coming back?
I remember that we talked about it, and then the thought just became, we've got guys here that maybe have been injured or maybe have been, in 2019 had this role, or in 2020 even had another role, and now in 22, we're looking at them, or they're not even being talked about. And so the discussion was, if we pour our heart and soul into our team, into these guys, right? They have the ability. It's just dormant there. If we bring this, if we do everything we can to not count and to not hold judgment, but to bring this guy back to life, there's your transfer portal guy right there, And so, yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to do.
Every time someone asks you a question, almost every time, whether it's me at a presser, you say, that's a good question, or thanks for the question. Where did you learn that?
I don't know. I think the questions that make me think, that really get to I don't know. I probably say that selfishly, to be honest, because they're things that I'm thinking about too. And so that might be bad on my part. But I think the questions that really kind of get to the point of kind of where it's all at, I think, they're good to answer. They help me.
Your last thing, emotions of what you are on the sideline. You're so stoic at times. What was it, the emotion that led to you just unleashing and having fun with your assistant coaches with got all the attention to butt slap?
Yeah.
And I'm not expecting one when I walk out, by the way.
No, I know. I'm sure this is the beginning. So I just think it's always been like that. I don't know how that really started. I think you're around our strength coaches, it kind of just naturally has to kind of be that, I think. But the energy in the pit when we're in, so the special teams units kind of come out, it will get to that. It will get to, if they would have stayed on us or on the pit after that continued after I left with just all throughout. And so I just think it's a way cool energy, and I think I enjoyed it. I feel like that part of my life has to die now.
No. I think a lot of people loved it. Dave, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Baylor head coach Dave Aranda, 365 Sports.
And if, in fact, you didn't hear that part of it, I said, how did you find out that this slap in the butt of a couple of assistant coaches became a thing on social media? His daughters were and his wife at the Ken Starr funeral or reception afterwards, and they saw it, and they started texting their father, like, Dad. And so that's how he first heard about the fact that it was anything at all. Appreciate his time, and thanks to Dave Aranda for being a part of our show. Now, coming up in about 20 minutes, we'll hear from Joey Maguire, but we'll come back and discuss Iowa State, Baylor, among the rest of the Big 12 as we continue on 365 Sports. Petty Clinic LowT.com. Dr. Ken Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and maybe used to be. How does he do that? You can go online and contact them. The business is online at pettycliniclowt.com. Email and phone number, top left-hand corner. And tell him I sent you. And what he will do and what the staff will do is contact you and then also set up an appointment for you to get your blood work. Dr. Petty will get your testosterone level, and if it's too low, put you in a program or give you the option to be in a program to increase your testosterone level to where it needs to be. Maybe it's just slightly below the number that it needs to be in that 600, 700, 800 range, or maybe it's drastically low. Maybe it's fine. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, including sleeping issues, not quite the same, energy, lethargic, sex drive, ED, all of the above or some of it. It's pettycliniclowt.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The wait is over. Richard Car GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All right, so we early in the show discussed the games, the winners in the Big 12. Also, we've gone over what's happened as well around the country in the top 25, the coaching changes, some of the injury updates, and much more to come. Thanks to Dave Aranda. Texas Tech head coach Joey Maguire was kind enough to give me a little bit of time earlier today. We'll have that in the next segment on their win against Texas. And some of what he said in that video that went viral when he discussed how college football runs through Lubbock, among a couple of other things, and that with him coming up in about 15 or 20 minutes. So, how did Baylor beat Iowa State? How did Tech beat Texas? How did Kansas State beat Oklahoma? We've kind of touched on that, but let's start in Ames. That was a little bit of a mini version, to me, of how Baylor won football games in 2021.
Yeah, well, they didn't really run the ball that well early, but they were able to get the ball out, and some guys made plays in the passing game. Having Ben Sims back is huge. They looked like they were stalled early, and then they got a couple of gift calls and took advantage of it. And I don't want to get into the whole ref thing, but those were some favorable calls that they got, and they capitalized on it and then never looked back. And that was the team that grabbed hold and physically controlled games last year, at least a little bit of it. That's the first time they really did look like they were doing the things they wanted to do. They got after the passer a bit more. They created some turnovers. They had some interceptions for the first time all year long. So all that was what Baylor won with last year.
Yeah, we touched on some of those other games. We haven't talked about this at all, and I just want to echo, a lot of what Paul said, but to the officiating thing, and I'm glad we got that out of the way. That went both ways by the end of it, so let's not even pretend like it didn't, especially at the very end. I mean, come on now. That game was close because of officiating in every direction you want to point. So
here, let me stop you for a second, if you don't mind. And I'm not trying to interrupt you. The reason we try to stay away from that topic is because it just goes down a rabbit hole, and everything else gets overshadowed. And so we really try to stay away from it whenever possible.
It's like Texas trying to pretend like the Tech loss didn't happen because of a fan incident at the end of the game. Yeah, like the Iowa State didn't lose that game because of a call, but no, like they were close because of calls as well. So, there's no point in arguing about it. The better team won. I think it was clear that the better team won. And it was the team that had to go and travel to Ames. So they already had that going against them. And yet there was Baylor with a fast start. Like Paul said, with Ben Sims right out of the gates. Did have a couple of extending calls there. But to Iowa State's credit, that was a scripted drive for both teams. Both teams' scripted drives were 12 plays, about 75 yards, and for 5+ minutes. It was nearly identical. And then once you got past that and you settled into the game, that was the second quarter now. Because the whole first quarter was basically 2 drives. It was the long Baylor drive, the long Iowa State drive, and then the second quarter starts, and it was basically game on after that. And Baylor got 10 straight, due to a field goal and then a turnaround with a touchdown to Dylan Doyle. I thought that it was just a really well played game by Baylor overall. I thought the coaching was excellent. I thought the timing of some of their calls, Jeff Grimes in particular offensively, whether it be, going to Dylan Doyle for that early touchdown or the flea flicker later on in the game, or just some of the different things that he did, really had a masterful game plan to find the end zone and to attack that Iowa State defense. I thought defensively they played, really well, obviously, completely shut down the Iowa State running game. I mean, that was forcing Hunter Dekkers to have to go basically win the game with his arm, and he's not quite ready to do that just yet. So I thought that was just a brilliant job once again by this defense, who really hasn't allowed anybody to run in a long time. Like, that's the thing for Oklahoma State this weekend, is how much are they planning on running the football, because nobody has for a while, going back to last year. So I thought that was really impressive to see. Just Shapen had his best game. Clearly, that was vintage Shapen from the end of last year when everybody was like, yep, he's the guy moving forward. O-line was the best they've been, I think, this year. The skill guys continue to grow and get better. Offensive play calling was excellent. All that was good defensively. I mean, again, stout against the run. Had a couple things in the pass game it's going to happen, but got some turnovers. Played really physical. I thought they matched Iowa State's physicality, if not exceeded it, which to go on the road and do that, and knowing that's kind of Iowa State's brand as well, I thought was a really big thing for this young football team to do. And I thought they were really clean in special teams, even just recovering the onside kick at the end of the game. That was a little dicey for like a half a second. But Matt Jones fell on it and kind of completed a clean day there because they handled their kicking duties. They handled punting well, handled, coverage units. So just thorough win. Don't think you look at really any area and go like, oh man, that's really gotta, penalties weren't crazy. I just think that BYU game a couple weeks ago really rattled their cage in the best kind of way and kind of opened their eyes to what they're going to have to be better at doing, both just individually but group-wise, and also as a team, what they're going to have to avoid if they want to win games like that on the road. And I think that all the stuff that plagued them in that BYU game, or a lot of it, you saw them eliminate those things in this game. And that's why I think at the end of it they were standing there victorious, was because they just played a total team game, coaches to players, and they didn't have a bunch of the mistakes we saw against BYU.
I think one of the biggest key on defense was Hunter Dekkers got rattled pretty early in that game and made him a little erratic. And, I mean, that's what you do to any quarterback.
Yeah.
There's I love it when people like this cliche, well, if you get this guy, if you hit him, he's not going to play well. You name me one quarterback who keeps getting hit, and it's like, oh, no, all of a sudden I'm more accurate. No, that's how it works. And they rattled him. He was seeing some ghosts, even when they weren't really getting back there because their pass rush was doing really well for the first time this year. He was a half second early or late or whatever you want to say. He just did not look like he did the first couple weeks. And, look, he did calm down later in the game, and it was – like we thought it was going to be a one-score game. It was a one-score game.
Yeah, it was.
But it didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. The touchdown on the catch at the goal line, which was not reversed. And again, I'm not going to – a touchdown. He called a touchdown, Okay.
They didn't even review it, though.
No, they didn't. And they usually review when it's a 3rd and 9 and a guy picks up – or 2nd and 8 and a guy picks up 4. Should he have gotten 5 or 3? But the point of it is that the game and anything that occurred early on, there was still 55 minutes left in the game, or anything that occurred with 25 minutes left in the game. And I thought Baylor dictated the tempo of that game. The running game is still not quite what it was, but Reese and Williams give them a little something. Shapen, I thought, was able to get outside the pocket on whether you waggles or bootlegs or whatever, and have a chance to pick and choose. It was great to have Ben Sims back if you're a Baylor fan, because he seems to be the security blanket. It was nice. Who made the catch in the sideline? Presley made a really critical catch when talking about the young receiver stepping up. He did on that play. And again, defensively, they created turnovers. They lose the turnover battle this week at Oklahoma State, they probably lose the game. Had they lost the turnover battle at Iowa State, they probably lose the game. That's just a statistic that rarely ever lies when it comes to playing any kind of football game.
Yeah, I think that this was easily their best effort of the season against the best team that they played this season, arguably. Like, I don't know if you were to suit up Iowa State and BYU. Like, I think that would probably come down to, like, where they play, when they play, and all of that. But I thought it was, their best win, obviously, since they didn't beat BYU. I think if you were to go put BYU and Baylor out on a neutral field or in Waco or, even in Provo again, I think Baylor wins that game. All due respect to the Cougars. I think that game kind of woke them up and they figured some things out and realized, like, hey, if we correct some of these things, then you see the payoff this past Saturday of what that could look like. And I think that now that they've seen that and realized that, and now you come back home, like that's going to make for a great game this weekend and just a great run the rest of the way, because I think that this team who did not have an identity when they started off with, even though we talk about Big 12 title last year and all that, and then they lost a ton of those guys. And that's part of why there's a slow start. That's part of why a lot of people didn't think they'd be as good. I don't know if they're as good as last year, but I do think they showed a lot of the signs that we saw last year of, a pretty good team and what they could be, knowing that, hey, they're only going into week 5. Like, there's still a bunch of games left for them to get better and improve. And, a lot of, things that could go awry too. But, standing as is and coming out of this weekend, I think that they have every right to be right there at the top of the Big 12 conversation. And, we can leave it there for now. But there's a lot in store for this team if they play the way they did on Saturday, in my opinion. And, you can't allow Iowa State to have a chance there at the end, because I don't think that game went the way of, really Iowa State being able to have a chance at the end. It's how it turned out ultimately, and they were able to stave that off to their credit. But, man, I would have loved to have seen Lorando Johnson get credit for that play at the end. Like, what a way that would have been to close out that game, and I think it would have been a lot more fitting than recovering the onside kick. But, I thought it was a thorough, complete win. And, I think they have a lot of reasons to be happy walking out of Ames, although they got to already, get over it already and start turning their attention to a very good team this Saturday.
That play at the end that Lorando did, and of course, and then the running back makes it as well, was also kind of like the A&M Arkansas field goal, like the laws of physics that all had to fall into place for that to happen so fast. And how a guy with quads like that did not get a little bit of that quad on the chalk.
Oh man, that was.
I mean, it wasn't like it was Squirrel Williams out there who is thin. This dude is a train. He's got big old quads, and they did not hit the chalk. And I thought that call was right. But
you're talking about giving him the touchdown.
Yeah, giving him the touchdown.
Oh,
Jarrell Brock had it knocked out going into the end zone by Lorando Johnson. It falls into the end zone. He dives on it near the sideline, and you could have called it and said he was out of bounds and that's a touchback, or you could have called it like they ended up calling it after review, which was he somehow got possession before sliding out of bounds, which, I mean, it is what it is at this point. Could have gone either way, but, it was a heck of an effort by Jarrell Brock.
I do want to get into one thing, and this is about anything targeting. I understand the rule. I get the rule. I understand what they're trying to do. In my opinion, one, it should be reviewed anytime there's a call. Then on occasion, you'll have one that, again, they call down from the booth, which to me, you want to get it right. But I do think, this is my opinion, targeting 15 yards. Second time in a game, you're gone. Okay? If it's in the second half, you miss the first half of the next game. If, in fact, though, you accumulate 3 or 4 at whatever point of the year, you get suspended for a game or two.
Okay. I agree with everything you said except one thing.
Okay.
I think the first half of the next game thing is silly.
Yeah, me too.
Like Overshown was suspended for this. Okay.
Just kick them out of the game. If it happens in the fourth quarter, then it happens in the fourth quarter. That's punishment enough, because you might lose that game. Making them set up the first half of the game with a dunce hat on in the corner, to me, I don't think it's really that effective.
Does the NFL have anything like that?
No.
Why would you take your star players potentially off the field over a bang-bang, like not even intentional type of a situation?
I'm fine with
they take them out of the game, and perhaps the heated moment, you bar them from a whole half the next week. They only get so many games to play in, man. Like, this is kind of BS.
Yeah, that's why I think look, anytime it happens during the game, if it happens on the second to last play of overtime, okay, you're out of the game because that can affect the game. But the next week is a whole new thing until, like you said, Smokey, if this person's a serial headhunter, then you need to suspend them.
And that's what I'm saying. And I don't know. I don't even know in the NFL. I know that there's penalties and whatever. And there are, in fact, probably some things more harsh, like a getting fined $100,000 or whatever it might be, no matter how much money they make. I just think that there are, in some cases, it's such a violent game. It's a physical game. And yes, they're trying to take that out because of head injuries or concussions. but it's also such a fastly played game, a fast-paced game, along with being physical. And the only time I can ever remember an offensive player getting hit with a targeting call was a tight end from Oklahoma a few years back who lowered his head into a defender, and he got a targeting call. It is such a bang-bang call. I get why they're trying to do it. I just think that the overall initial penalty and also ejection is too harsh.
Yeah, I hated that for Iowa State during that game, and I also hated it because I knew it was going to lead to, which is immediate excuses. And I think that it got Matt Campbell obviously revved up early on, and I get him, in his outbursts on the sidelines. You see other coaches do that, but I think there kind of becomes this mentality after a while of almost like every time something goes against you that, oh, well, we're the victims, and it's like here we go again. They're out to get Iowa State, and I felt that. I felt that as soon as that targeting call hit of like, they're out to get us today, and it's like, man, you got to pace yourself. It's the first quarter still. I don't know how effective that is at this point. The whole woe is us, and they're out to get us kind of mentality. But there are weird things and weird calls that happen between these two teams. I don't know why that is, but it was like, of course it's already getting weird right out of the gates because just stupid officiating happens in this game or stupid things happen in this game. And it didn't involve the two teams this time around, like getting too heated or sideline fans or whatever other excuses and crap that's come up. But I do hate that kind of tainted the early part of it, but it did not factor into the end result like we've been saying. I do feel great about Baylor coming out of this. I don't know like how often I'm not going to favor them in games coming up. And the fact that they went and did that on the road makes me feel great about them going to Norman or to where else are they going? Morgantown and to Austin. Like I feel way better about those road trips after seeing them play the way that they did this weekend. Not that those won't be tough and not that they'll go unscathed, but I just feel the things that I had questions about, a lot of that got answered this past Saturday against Iowa State as far as their focus and maturity and going on the road and doing all those things. Now for Iowa State, I guess we'll see kind of what happens, man. Hunter Deckers is a fine player, but he's obviously young and he's not quite there yet. Jarrell Brock's good, but he's not what they've had. Defensively, they're pretty salty, but they're not great. So they're a good football team, and they can make a lot of noise this weekend. So I'm curious to kind of see what direction they go the rest of the way because they're good. I just don't know how good they are.
I'm curious to see them this week because this is and Duke was a little bit like this because this is how Mike Elko coaches. But this is the first team that Kansas has played that is really fundamentally sound and is a little things team.
Yeah.
But, Matt Campbell's the little things guy. And that's how I wonder how Kansas will react to that. Now, I don't think Iowa State has the offense to, go blow for blow if this gets into a shootout, but you never know because Kansas's defense is still really not that good.
And I don't think Iowa State's going to let them just go up and down like that.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be interesting. But, again, Kansas is not an easy out anymore, and if they have one really good quarter, they can really put you behind it.
All right. I agree on that. Here's the thing. There are no gimmies.
Yeah.
No matter who you're playing, it's deep. I don't know if there's an elite team in the Big 12, and I don't know that. I just know that it was hard for me after 4 or 5 in our preseason poll. What do we do with West Virginia? What do we do to Texas Tech? And I had a feeling that Kansas would be better. I didn't think they would be this much better. All right, Garrett, people want to discuss officiating, and that's fine. I just don't like it to overshadow the game. But the Pac-12 and the ACC, both conferences did release information. This is according to sources. ACC suspended side judge from last Saturday's game at Notre Dame who called Cal for being offsides on the play. They apologized to Cal for the error, admitted was a bad call. As of now, they don't plan on making public acknowledgement of error and punishment, and I disagree with that. You will reprimand a coach or you represent a university for storming the field or for something he says or whatever. I do disagree. I do think reprimanding publicly someone who makes a mistake when they're getting paid what they're getting paid, which is good money, to officiate college football, I think that that should be known. There was another one I put out that was from the ACC. There's the offsides call, by the way, on Cal. That's the image of the actual picture.
Yeah, that was from a few days ago. I saw that, and I think somebody else tried to make the argument in one of the threads I was reading of well, if you turn it this way, and it's they technically, I don't know. Like you said, I don't bog down in officiating, and I certainly have no doubts in my mind as far as the results this weekend that the game that we're talking about in particular was not influenced by that ultimately.
No.
So, yeah.
But there's a thing that the NFL does that, look, and they've got their issues too. We all know that.
The guy has to talk at the end of the game.
But they have to go talk to the pool reporter at the end of the game, and he has to address those things. Accountability makes better training in all walks of life. So if you are made to be accountable, then the officials will be better. But right now, and I think we have this problem in college football, they're not held accountable. So some of the problems that continue to persist are just the same thing over and over again. Smoaky loves to talk about how they review things. The Big 12 has a big problem about, instead of just going 91 was offsides, like 4 guys official, like 91, 91, 91. Like, look, if this guy saw it and you know it was offsides and you saw him offsides, you should make sure it's 91. Just say 91 was offsides, call it and move on.
I do think the officials have a couple of reasons for why they don't do that. Like, I'm all for the accountability part of it as well, but I do think that it probably has something to do with their shortage of officials. You don't want to run guys off. And I also think when you're dealing with complete lunatics who are fans of some teams, you probably don't want to put them out there publicly because some dude from Auburn or whatever is going to try and light your house on fire or something. And I'm not trying to single out Auburn, but I think that probably plays into it somewhat as well.
All
but
right.
I'm with you, though. There needs to be some accountability.
One other, Pac-12 acknowledged that a mistake was made in the down indicator during the first half of the Oregon-Washington State game. Apparently, there was a play where they ran a play, but it should not have counted. And they eventually, Washington State, let's see here. In the Oregon-Washington State game, second quarter, Washington State was in possession, first down at the 42. They were called for intentional grounding, and the down indicator on the far side of the field had already changed to second down. When the referee announced the loss of the down penalty, the down indicator then changed to third down incorrectly. The next play was a running play up the middle. They punted the ball. They tried to stop it, go back and look at it. They made a mistake, but once another play is run, you cannot go back and change it. Matt, I have a bet with you right now that if Baylor later in the year, if there's a play or a call or whatever that says, you will not hear that from the three of us. We will discuss calls, but you will never hear us complain about an outcome of the game because of an officiating call. You will never hear us do that. I'll bet a body part, and I have some that aren't as good as they used to be. What body part will you bet? That's a deal. When we come back, Texas Tech football coach Joey Maguire on 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. Baylor's back home this week at McLean Stadium. They are your home for tailgate food. Sausage, pork, chicken wings, poultry, tri-tip, brisket, beef. They have all of it. They have a butcher shop and a bakery that runs full throttle, and they're open Monday through Saturday. Call in your order or get in touch with them and order what you want for your tailgating on Saturday, and you can pick it up sometime on Friday afternoon and have it ready when you are ready. Again, they have charcoal and all the other necessities from seasonings, sauces, marinade, and more. And if you want some of the just go-to things, maybe you're just going to make a big thing of queso with sausage, and they have rotel, they have crackers, they have treats, they have sweets, they have cold beer and wine, and also cold soft drinks as well. Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, your hometown grocery store and your tailgate product store. Again, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, during Ram Power Days, shop the year-after-year award-winning new 2022 Ram 1500, designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This is a truck that's legendary. Get the first-class feel and luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround view camera options you'd expect from a premium truck. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop for Ram trucks. Visit today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC. PC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
We're now joined by Texas Tech head football coach Joey Maguire on 365 Sports. What was Lubbock, Texas like this weekend?
Pretty crazy, man. Started out really fired up about playing the Big 12 opener, and then after the win, it got even more fun. So wild place. West Texas was a wild place this Saturday.
What did that game not mean to the overall program? I saw your post-game speech. We'll get into that. But just your players believing in what you've been preaching about them.
You know, one of the biggest things I think that you can do for a team, and then just as you know, your players in general, is believe in them and pour into them and breathe confidence in them. And then I think it helps them believe in what you're doing even more whenever they start seeing it and it's tangible. And they, you know, getting that win on Saturday, it starts to get them to understand, hey, you know, coach, if we do this, then we're going to have an opportunity to win. And so I think they start doing it more and more on a regular basis. It becomes a routine, and it helps them be successful.
All right, the game now you have coming up with Kansas State. We know what they did. We know what you did. How do you bring them back down? Did you see kind of a focus in them so far when you get a chance to see them this week?
Yeah, you know, we met with them yesterday. That was one thing that we really talked about. You know, I told them, I said, I searched and searched. I can find millions of quotes from businessmen, from, athletes, of how you handle failure. But a lot of times you can't find a lot of quotes of how you handle success. And that's that honestly, to me, that's one of the hardest things to do, and one of the arts of learning how to handle success, because, you're going to get everybody patting you on the back and, telling you did such a great job. And I want them to enjoy it, but that's not what we want to be remembered for. And so how they focus this week and what they do. So what we've tried to do is just really focus on our daily schedule of being on time, of turning in all our assignments, of getting, extra treatment if you're banged up, like all the little things. Make that your daily process of getting ready for this game. And at the end of the day, if we don't go out and we don't, do what we need to do and be the best that we can be, then this Texas game, again, will be what we're remembered for, and that's not what we want.
You were the River City Gambler with fourth downs. You mentioned that you kind of saw how that was done last year with Coach Aranda and his staff. And there are times when you're like, what are they doing, even during down and distance in your own territory? Is that something that you just feel like the analytics make sense?
I did. I learned that a lot last year and 19, 20, and 21. But really 21 last year, I watched and learned a staff, that really sold out to that. And, there was so many things that, last year we were put in some good situations because of it. And then you've got to get both sides to understand, if we don't make it, this is kind of like who we are. And if we don't make it, then we've got to go play football. So I think our guys are believing in it. I mean, I explain it to them. I want our guys to have the information of exactly what we're doing going into the games and how we're doing it, so they're not in shock. And if something goes, the wrong way, you definitely want to get in the better. If there is a such thing as being in a better fourth down, you want to be in a better fourth down than what we were in North Carolina State. We were just the time and the amount that we were down dictated that we had to be more aggressive at times on fourth down, on like 4th and 8, 4th and 9, stuff like that.
Donovan Smith has really done an amazing job since taking over. He's had some moments where a lot of guys would have gone into a fetal position with some tough plays. I remember the story he mentioned about his mother one time. He broke his finger and she didn't panic. She said, "Oh, look, you have a broken finger," and how that kind of helped him handle stress. Was that not perfect, but how incredible was he for you on Saturday?
Man, I can't say enough about Donovan being everything right in this world. In meaning, if you think about it, he wins the bowl game, and he wins the game to get us in a bowl game. Then he wins the bowl game, and then he comes out and he's not named the starting quarterback. And so many guys would have jumped in the portal right then. They had transferred. But it shows who he is. That week going into Murray State, he had a great practice all week long. And, and then we get Tyler hurt and he's got to go in. And once again, we turned the ball over against North Carolina State. It's a mixture of a lot of people. But he could have right then, felt sorry for himself and not had a great week of practice. And he did. He had a great week of practice. And I just think the more you practice and put those practices together, you become a better football player. And he definitely, I thought Kitley had a great game plan. Donnie went out and executed it, and the team backed him up and played really, really well on Saturday.
Is there a win when you were at Baylor that reminded you of the win you had on Saturday?
I think, I really think the 2018 Oklahoma State game at home, Denzel Mims catches the ball in the end zone. That I thought that was really a lot alike from the standpoint of that. 19 we beat Texas, 21 we beat Texas, and so those two games were a lot alike, but probably just for feeling that for the first time. It was probably 2018 when we beat Oklahoma State at home.
I listened and watched your post-game speech, which has gotten a lot of attention. You made the comment, everything runs through Lubbock. And then you also said, if we do this, if we do that. But what you said, do you feel like maybe that message has not been said enough in Lubbock, Texas, or to the football program over the years?
I just think so many times, what we talk about, we don't make excuses and we don't let other people make them for us. And I think there's been so many times for anywhere, there's a lot of different programs that do this. If they make an excuse of like, well, we can't do it because we're little old, whatever, or we can't do it because you got to recruit here. And, what I'm trying to do, I believe in what I said, probably got some people fired up and bulletin board material and all that stuff. I was really speaking to my team, but my job is to breed confidence and breed that life into our players, that they believe that they can go out and do special things. And so, those were the comments, man. I really believe that. It's, these guys, if they do that, there's no reason whatsoever with everything that we have going on here, that we can't be as good as anybody in the country. And so we just kind of keep pouring into them and just keep these guys believing that way. And I think you see the way we're playing and the way we're fighting through games, they're really starting to believe in themselves.
Well, you look at who you've played, right? And again, this weekend will be a tough test because of who you're playing. But when you look at your schedule as a first-year head coach, to have the game with Houston, which we knew would be close, and then to have the game with Texas because of the history there that Texas has dominated. And then, of course, the game at NC State, having one of their best teams in a long, long time. I don't know if you could be more battle-tested, can you?
Well, I think this will be our fourth week, and I know it'll be let's see, we'll go Houston, North Carolina State, Texas, K-State, and for sure Oklahoma State, to where we're playing ranked teams. I don't see Oklahoma State, no matter what happens, they're not going to fall out. And so, K-State's a top 25 team that we get to play this week, and you turn around and play another one. So I don't know who's played 5 straight weeks of ranked teams, but, it's tough, but it's making us better. It's just continuing to grow this team and, making us closer.
Joey, you are the ultimate, I guess you could say, positive person. Scott Drew is very much similar to that. When was the last time you had a tough day? When was the last time the day beat you?
First of all, what's funny is the commentators, whenever I met with them on Friday, they literally brought up that Scott Drew and I are a lot alike. Just that positive and allowing our players to be themselves and kind of taking some pressure off of them and stuff like that. So it's really cool you said that. Man, I always I've heard different people say it before. There's bad moments and not bad days, and you can't let those moments ruin your day. There's probably been a couple of days that without a doubt, a couple of years ago I had a rough one there in Waco. But was able to overcome it because I got great people around me, and man, I love what I do. I mean, it's amazing. I've never worked a day in my life. I get up every single day and I get an opportunity to work with players to help them become better men and hopefully fulfill their dreams. And so if you love what you do, man, it's easy to get past some of those bad moments and continue to have good days.
Joey, hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you very much. Congratulations and good luck this weekend. We appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, man.
Joey Maguire, head football coach at Texas Tech after the win against Texas on 365 Sports.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has trucks in stock. 2022 Sierras have hit the lot and are waiting for you to test drive today. GMC Sierras offer the best-in-class towing, strong steel bed, multi-pro tailgate, advanced collision avoidance, and a luxurious interior that includes massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, and premium comfort. There's also trucks waiting for you to test drive now over at Richard Carr, so get to the dealership and drive your next truck today. But if the exact truck or SUV you're looking for is not on the lot, get on their inbound vehicle list, and you can cut in line for trucks that are in production but not quite in stock, or let them help you design the exact truck or SUV you want, and Richard Carr will have GMC prioritize it for you. Again, new trucks on the lot, dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock, all of them undergo a 172-point inspections, and with dozens of lending options, Richard Carr says yes to loans when others say no. In business for over 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select Choice and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Oh, a stunt by Washington State over the middle. It's Franklin. Troy Franklin will take it to the house. Touchdown, Ducks, 50 yards.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We are now joined by Tim Brando, Fox Sports, who some think should be the commissioner of college football. He was in Pullman, Washington over the weekend, and now has Texas and also West Virginia coming up, of course, Saturday in Austin. Tim, thanks for your time. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been able to get some of your truth serum. Should Kansas be ranked?
Yes, absolutely they should be. And they're not alone, by the way. Seems that, I think, to be perfectly frank, though, David, what we're looking at this year is we really don't have room for all the teams that should be ranked, because between, gosh, I'd say number 4 and number 40, it's really balanced. You know, I mean, it is really balanced. We could extend the top 25 to, you know, Casey Kasem's top 40. You know, I got a letter from an old lady in Penn State, you know, because there's just not a lot of separation once you get past the top 3. Now, you know, look, I'm not convinced Alabama's elite anymore. I mean, I'm not. Certainly not finding out anything blowing out Vanderbilt, okay, and another SEC network yawner. We'll find out in the coming weeks ahead now, because their schedule is about to pick up a little with Arkansas, and then the A&M game that everybody's anticipating with bated breath. So probably know a little bit more, but you can't not have them 3. Georgia and Ohio State are really the 2 teams that are playing the best, and they're playing the best with arguably the best players. Alabama is there in large measure because of their brand and who they are and what they've, you know, done historically. And they've earned that. So I've got no problem putting them at 3. But then after that, okay, where I had Baylor in the preseason, you know, you could put anybody there. Right now I've got Michigan there, but, you know, they didn't exactly blow the doors off Maryland last week. And a play here or there, and Maryland might have won the game. You know, the opening kick, ball bounced off the kid's head and gave him the ball at the 10-yard line for an easy touchdown. So I was more impressed with the Terrapins than I was with Michigan. But I don't know if anybody else I want to put it for. Couldn't do that with Oklahoma after what happened to them against Kansas State. So, yeah, Kansas deserves to be ranked. I think the team that I had that lost to Oregon, lost a 12-point lead in 3.5 minutes, Washington State. Cam Ward, the kid from Incarnate Word, was really the star of that game for 56.5 minutes. I mean, he was. And yet it was Bo Nix that had the career day and brought his team from behind to win the game. So it's crazy go nuts time out there in college football. There's so many teams playing well that aren't getting any coverage whatsoever. Okay? I mean, not getting any coverage whatsoever. I mean, look at the Big 12 schedule this week. All right? Texas Tech beats Texas. Okay? Comes from 14 down to do it. K-State goes on the road and beats Oklahoma. And for their efforts, we're excited to tell the alumni base of both schools, you'll be playing each other on ESPN Plus this week. Mm-hmm. I mean, think, nobody wants to talk about these teams that aren't brand names. And, you know, we look at the we look at the mirror and we find that we're as responsible, those of us in the media, as any, because we're too damn lazy to keep up with what's going on at all these schools. Gee, we don't want to have to cover 40 teams. We'd really rather cover just 3 or 4. You know, that's what's happening in college football right now. And we're all guilty of it. When I say we're all, I mean all the networks, I mean all the websites, I mean everybody. Okay? And it's really it's a shame. But until such time as the media is forced to do it, and they will be when we expand to 12 or 16 teams, this is the way it's going to be, apparently.
Well, Tim, you bring up, since the last time we've had you on, the playoff is, you know, expanded, at least in idea now, and that's going to happen. Yeah. But is that's kind of a necessity based on what you said of between 4 and 40, there's a lot of teams even. That's the new reality of college football. Yeah, you're going to have your Georgia's and Ohio State's at the top that have a bunch of 5-star guys, but the transfer portal is kind of an equalizer. It's changed everything.
Yeah, it is. Well, look who's leading all these teams that we're talking about. I had 2 transfers in my game, one a veteran, another that came up through the FCS that Incarnate Word played in the Southland Conference. And like I said, for 56.5 minutes, Cam Ward was the star of that game. And Washington State's defense is good. They're a veteran crew. They got a lot of fifth-year guys on that defensive side, and they kept Oregon out of the end zone for the entire first half, even though Oregon had outgained them 2-1. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing. I just love what Joey Maguire said after that game in the locker room. Okay. The Big 12 college football has to come through Lubbock, baby. Has to come through Lubbock. I love that. And, we're 1-0 in the league. And, gee whiz, Texas, it appears, is not back again. So, good for him. But if these coaches don't pump up their own skirts, okay, if they don't tell everybody and their kids and their alumni base, shout from the mountaintops, we're really good, nobody's going to pay attention. Clearly, that's obvious. Nobody's going to pay attention.
Yeah, in fact, we had Joey on right before you, and that's kind of what he was saying. Too many programs are told why they aren't good or why they can't be good, and his job is to make sure that his program and those around it, in it, playing for it, recruiting it, know that it can be. And
David, what's happening is it's so much easier, and columnists do this. Okay, reporters do this on television, producers of studio shows do this. Instead of let's investigate why Texas Tech is so good, why don't we just hang Sark in effigy again? It's easier that way. We don't have to really know anything about Texas Tech or Joey Maguire or any of those storylines. But we do know Sark and we do know his situation because it's Texas. We have to keep up, so we do know about them. They're a brand name. All right, that's what's going on. Kansas State, we got to throw dirt. We got to throw a lot of dirty water on them because they lost to Tulane. Well, does anybody know how good Tulane is? Or Willie Fritz, the job he's done there? No, probably don't even know Willie Fritz coaches there. And now Kansas State goes on the road, beats Oklahoma, and that shouldn't surprise anybody. How many times have they done it before? They've done it a lot, more than any other Big 12 team. They've done it in Norman, Oklahoma. So, there's just – I could go on and on about how media has decided that we're just going to not cover most of college football. We're going to cover, the 4 teams we think are getting in, and then the others we have to because they have such a large alumni base, and they get good ratings. We're going to continue to put them on, no matter how many times they screw the pooch. We're going to keep putting them on the air. Okay, it's like Tiger Woods could be 25 shots back, right? We're still going to see every shot. Okay, and if Dickie Fried is leading the golf tournament, so Tiger barely made the cut. Let's talk about him. That's what's going on, fellas, in a nutshell.
Oh, we're 1 week into full Big 12 play, Tim, and because they both lost last weekend, we're already hearing how this is a down year for the conference because Texas and OU aren't, unbeaten and, on top of the world, and I just think that that's the complete opposite of what's actually happening. But that's what happens every year.
Mediocre. Yeah, it's a mediocre league now.
Yeah, exactly.
If the Big 12 champion lines up with a 10-2 record, the league really wasn't very good.
Yeah,
that's going to be the narrative. Okay, I personally believe Baylor can win every game they've got left. But I also think they could easily lose another game. I'm guessing that they won't, okay, because I had them in the 4 position when before the season started, so I obviously believe in them. But this is going to be a tough out against Oklahoma State. I've got Oklahoma State. Where do I have them? I've got them 5. I put them in the 5 hole this week.
Yeah,
because I think they've earned that. And I've got NC State 6. And nobody is talking about NC State potentially beating Clemson. I was talking about that months ago. Okay, and by the way, Clemson should have lost last week to Wake Forest. Wake should have won that football game. And I don't know if you guys noticed it, but here's how much, the college football landscape matters to the worldwide leader. In the middle of a close game, they're doing cut-ins with Aaron Judge at bat.
Oh, God.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're having to listen to Michael Kay call it. Folks, it's not even a record anywhere except with the New York Yankees. Nowhere else. Okay? We've had more than 61 home runs. Guys have hit 61 or better home runs in Major League Baseball. But, the mad scientists in Bristol believe that was worth interrupting Sean McDonough and Blackledge calling that game. I'm not a fan. I was up in my booth getting ready for my game, and I was ready to throw beer cans at the television. Okay? But that's how college football is being treated. Okay? And, wait a minute. It makes no sense, okay, how little the number 2 most popular sport in America is treated by the national press. Electronic and other places too.
Tim, one of those teams in your top 10, Tennessee, they've got off to a really nice start, obviously, Hennon, Hooker, and Heupel, and the offense and just the whole package right now seems to be working pretty well for them. But they've got LSU, and then they've got Alabama over the next 2 weeks. Just what are your thoughts on where the Vols are right now, and now this next couple-week journey starting off with Baton Rouge this weekend?
Well, I put them up there, but again, because I didn't think anybody else deserved to be in the ninth position besides them. Okay, Oregon, in my opinion, even though it's lost a game, its game was to Georgia. Essentially that was a road game for them, in Atlanta. And they call it a neutral site, but it's not. And I see Oregon has made terrific strides since then with some pretty big wins. But Tennessee could easily lose in Baton Rouge. I mean, they could easily lose in Baton Rouge. And by the way, if they did, I wouldn't be shocked if they came back and possibly beat Alabama at home. I mean, that's how crazy this season is. It'd be easy for Tennessee to, be everyone's Hendon Hooker's BMOC all this week going into Baton Rouge. And those kids and the press are talking about, the third Saturday of October, like it's going to be the old days, Bear Bryant and Johnny Majors on the sidelines. It's not. So, yeah, they could lose. I put them there because I really think Kentucky is, the best team besides Georgia and Bama. Right now, I think they've earned the right to be the third best team in the Southeastern Conference. But if you put Kentucky and Tennessee in a game right now, I don't know that Kentucky's offense can score with them. Tennessee's got dynamic offensive personnel, and they can beat you with explosive play. But that, again, that could be the kiss of death, but I've got them in the top 10, and LSU might take them out this week. Yeah. I'm not sure I would pick LSU, to be honest with you.
I do need to clarify. It's not this weekend. I counted wrong. It's next weekend, but it still stands everything that you're saying,
right.
the test that they've got. But, yeah, they got a little bit of time to breathe and prepare for that game. I wanted to clarify there.
Right. They do have an open date, don't they?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports with us. It's always great to have Tim on the show. Paul?
Tim, what are your thoughts on Texas A&M? They had a lot of hype coming into the season. They don't have a lot of offensive firepower. The defense is good. But they've lost Anaya Smith. They wanted a kind of a miracle missed field goal this week. Where do you see them headed?
Can you say 8-4?
They can, for sure.
Okay. I mean, that's what I see. Arkansas, in my estimation, should have won that game. They lost it a couple of times, but we should have seen the wheels beginning to come off with Pittman last week when he was talking about how poorly they played against Bobby Petrino's Missouri State team. So, he's the coach. He thought he was trying to be transparent with us and to maybe get the attention of his team. I think they may have gotten caught looking ahead to Alabama. That's a big one they got coming up with them. And that's what happens to these young guys. They are still, for the most part, unless you're at BYU, 18 to 22. There are a few, older guys sprinkled in there. I think Hendon Hooker is 24, isn't he? I believe he is, the Tennessee quarterback. So there's a few isolated guys that might be quite a bit older. But I think to sustain success overtime is a difficult thing to pull off. If A&M had not won the last two games, it would have been, I mean, should we just say it? There would have been a lot of gnashing of teeth and calls for concern about getting a rebate on Jimbo's contract.
Yeah.
So, they really had to win these last two. How are they going to handle being in the situation that they're in now with the next two? No, I'm not a believer in A&M. I wasn't before, and I'm not now. I'm not.
Tim, you mentioned that 4 through 40, it could be a crapshoot, and of course, there's still games to be played, evidence to be seen. Do you feel like it's ironic this is happening? Not that there haven't been other years like this because of what we went through during the offseason, and that this is only proof, even though there are still those who rise to the top, the cream rise to the top, that this is still proof of why the playoffs should be open to a lot of different people?
Oh, absolutely. And listen, we had these upsets a year ago at this time in the regular season. We all forgot about it because in the end we got stuck with what we got stuck with, and that's where we're going to be again this year probably. As we get closer to the end, we get to November, and we're playing games that are very, very important. That mean, potential slots in New Year's Six bowl games and all that. Those games, even though they might involve teams that are ranked somewhere between number 10 and number 20, it won't matter because we know there's only 4 that get to go in. So everybody will be concentrating on the same teams that they always concentrate on. It would be really nice. I'm not going to lie to you. It would be really nice if one of these teams that we're always thinking is going to be in it, like a Clemson, I don't think it's going to be Georgia. They're just too good. But a Clemson or an Alabama, if they were to drop 2 games, and I think both are capable of dropping 2 games, who are we going to insert in there? There could be a little bit of debate about, more than just the 4th position. Maybe there could be debate about the 3rd and the 4th position. Okay. Could a league, get 2 teams in just because, okay? I mean, there's the potential of that might be there if both Alabama and Clemson dropped a couple of games. I believe it starts with NC State this week. You guys remember I was bullish on really 3 teams: Baylor the most, Utah right after them, and NC State was the other one. And they got a hell of a quarterback. They got a great secondary. Clemson's still got issues defensively. They can give up big plays. I think Sam Hartman gave NC State a nice blueprint to work with. And I know that the Wolfpack defense is better than Wake Forest. So that may be the starting point. Can Alabama lose to either Arkansas or A&M? Yeah. I think the potential is there. I haven't seen Alabama look like Alabama the way we've perceived them. Really, it was sort of this way last year. If you think about it, I think it's maybe even more so that way this year than last. And that's going to be really fun to see if that happens. Maybe it'll get people to talk about other teams and really consider covering the entire sport as opposed to the same teams.
Tim, will you get how do you know when games you get? Because I know you got Texas this week. We were hoping you'd get
West Virginia.
Texas, West Virginia this week. Sorry, Texas, West Virginia this week. We were hoping you were coming to Waco this week for Baylor, Oklahoma State. How do you get your draw?
Well, the draw is this. Joel and Gus are going to do Big Noon, and Big Noon is going to be, either Ohio State, Michigan most weeks in the Big Ten, or it's going to be a game like Red River whenever that falls to Fox. I think that may actually be an ABC ESPN game this year. If I'm not mistaken. But Jason Benetti and Brock Heward do what is technically called our second team, our B unit, and Spencer and I are the C unit, the third team. Now, a lot of weeks we have 3 games on Fox. Some weeks we don't, largely because of Major League Baseball, the NLCS, ALCS, and the World Series. When we have 3 games on Fox, Spencer and I are definitely going to be on one of those games. And so it was an either-or situation this past week where and I really do believe this, if Texas had won against Texas Tech, my guess is Texas, because they're a brand name, that would have been the game that would have been on Fox. And the Oklahoma State Baylor game would have probably fallen to Spencer and yours truly. I think that would have been our game. It would have been in prime time. But since Texas lost, and that was their second L, if you notice, even though Oklahoma lost to Kansas State, ABC, who was picking first this past week, still stayed with Oklahoma and TCU for their early game. This particular week, they were picking first, and Fox had the number 2 and 3 picks in the Big 12. And we got the third game in the Big 12. So that means Texas and West Virginia moved to FS1 in prime time. We're in a similar holding pattern this week. And a lot will depend on how the Oklahoma State-Baylor game shakes out. If Oklahoma State wins, they're at home next week with Texas Tech. Could be a hell of a game. And if Oklahoma State wins that game, I'm reasonably certain that's where Spencer and I will be. If Oklahoma State loses that game, I think there's a very good chance we could be going out west to do Utah at UCLA in the Rose Bowl, which could be a great game. But that's because we have 3 games on Fox on October the 8th. We only have 2 games on Fox on October the 1st. So that's how that works. And the selection process changes in the Big 12 deal from who picks first on alternating weeks. So it's not consistently going to be this way, but that's the way it shook out this time around. And by the way, I mean, I've gotten some texts from some people. It was Joe Davis and Brock Heward before, and now it's Jason Benetti and Brock, and they're tremendous. I love those guys. I think the world of Jason. He's a great broadcaster. Hell of a story too. The young man has done so much in his life, having gone through, what he's gone through with cerebral palsy. And if you haven't read up on him, you should. And he's got great pipes. He's a hell of a broadcaster. So that's how it works. And we'll just wait to get our working orders, and we'll march on to wherever they tell us.
And as always, Tim, thanks for your time. We'll be watching, and hope to see you in Waco or with a Baylor game sometime when we have a chance to see you again. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, happy to do it always. You guys know that. And it won't hurt my feelings if Baylor gets on a nice run here. All right? But I'll let you know. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a prognosticator, but I do play one on TV occasionally.
Yeah, you do. And we appreciate it. I love the fact you're fearless about it. Thanks for your time. Tim Brando, again, when he says it, he means it. He's not just saying it to appease anybody. Go look at his Twitter feed. He's put something up there, both sides. So we appreciate him. He has Texas and West Virginia, as he mentioned, Benetti and Brock Heward, Saturday, Baylor and Oklahoma State.
He mentioned Utah, right?
Yeah.
They had awful news today with their tight end, Brent Keithy, going down. Who's a Texas native. I don't think we mentioned that at the top, but that is a terrible loss for the Utes. Good player from the state of Texas, as I mentioned, so I was keeping an extra eye on him. But, yeah, I hated to see that for Utah. But, yeah, great to get Tim's insight, as always, and get his thoughts on the obvious that we see in college football as far as the massaging of the bigger brands and how all that works in every facet of this game, and never will change no matter what.
But he does make a good point that when the playoff expands, people are going to have to cover more teams than they're used to because they've got to do it. Now, will that expansion – it's only going to be a couple teams that pop up from the muck every couple of years that, are outside the norm because, it's – for the most part, we're going to see teams, we're going to see more brand teams that just don't have to have super fantastic years to get in the playoffs because there's going to be more teams. But, yeah, I think it will slightly force it. But, again, because they have people at a network also that are up top saying, do this, do this, do this. If you watch ESPN programming right now, I think the biggest mistake they ever made with their programming was, well, this is what people are tweeting about. Well, Twitter is this little much of the world.
It's a microcosm of what's going on. Like if you ever just step and look, I'm on it, and it's like basically the only social I have at this point. I would probably not have it if I wasn't in this job at this stage. I don't know for sure, but I definitely would spend even less time on it. I like it. It's a useful tool, but yeah, there is just this hive mind for people who never log off that is basically the real world for them. And it's like, just step away and look around and realize this is like a tenth of what's actually being talked about.
I know this is rude, but if you walked into a crowded restaurant and asked everybody at every table, did you see this on Twitter of a very famous person? Like, did you see what Beyonce tweeted? 90% of them would be like, no.
Yeah.
They won't.
Some would even ask you what Twitter is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, I like you, but it's not what it's cracked up to be sometimes, yeah.
Oregon, James Madison, and Ohio each won Saturday after trailing by double digits entering the fourth quarter. Earlier throughout the year, there had only been 3 such occasions of a team in the FBS doing that. Oregon, just came roaring back and had a very impressive win after that opening loss to Georgia. They've been bouncing back, and good for them.
Yeah, James Madison, what a great introduction season they've had. I mean, my gosh, what a program there. Kind of reminds me of like UMHB, if UMHB ever decided to like bump up a level and they got like all the the play behind the scenes to be able to do that. I feel like they're a program that kind of the way they're orchestrated would be able to just kind of do what they needed to do to take that step up and be pretty solid. But yeah, James Madison, golly, App State, what a wild roller coaster these last couple of weeks have been for the Mountaineers. But yeah, great win for JMU.
All right, Wet Blanket was upset about Tim Brando saying it wouldn't hurt his feelings if Baylor got on a run. He's saying that not because he's anti-Oklahoma State. He picked him to be in the college football playoff. I understand the sensitivity level. I get why you are. That's because he had a prediction, and he needs that to happen after the loss to Brigham Young, only because of that reason, not because of anything against Oklahoma State.
They've got Oak State at home, and then it's at West Virginia on a Thursday night, and then it's KU at home, and then it's at Texas Tech. That is their month of October. So you can see 4-0, 3-1, 2-2,
look,
but
I don't care how good West Virginia is. Baylor's never won there. And when you tell anybody you're going to Morgantown on a Thursday night, I'm sure they're like, oh, fun.
Yeah.
Great.
So Wet Blanket, I was going to put that on the chat room for you, but I just explained it to you on the show. You can still say what you want with your opinion on the chat room. Appreciate your time. All the opinions, we agree to disagree. We got a break. David Hellman on the Cowboys and Giants next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First and goal. He's found 5 different targets. He's going to hand it off. It's Pollard, and he's across for the Dallas touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
David Hellman on the Cowboys, Mondays around 5:30, joins us on 365 Sports. David, thank you very much. Tonight, Cowboys and Giants will be a monster rating game. Cowboys, of course, always get the eyeballs, but then New York and Dallas as well. David, why is Saquon Barkley having the year? Is it because he's finally healthy, or the Giants' offensive line better?
Their offensive line sure as hell doesn't look that much better through 2 weeks. Saquon, I mean, it was always a matter of Saquon's health. I mean, he's just unfortunately been a very snake-bitten guy through the first few years of his career. But I truly do believe he's one of those line-proof running backs when he's healthy. So week 2, not as amazing as his week 1 game. But he's healthy, and I mean, for my money, he should be the Cowboys' primary focus in this game. As long as they tackle well and don't let him do Saquon stuff, I feel pretty good about them being able to limit the Giants' offense.
David, no Michael Gallup tonight. Jalen Tolbert will make his debut. Are you a little bit surprised on Michael Gallup, and why do you think they held Jalen Tolbert out as long as they did?
I am surprised about Mike, but in a good way, honestly, because I had an uneasy feeling about that. It just felt like they were rushing him a little bit. I mean, Michael told us in August, he laughed at us when we asked him if he was going to be ready for the opener. He just said that that's completely unrealistic. So to go from completely unrealistic to ready to play in 2 weeks, that never jived with me. So I'm glad they're giving him a little bit more time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So I was happy to hear that they kind of leaned toward caution there. Jalen Tolbert, I think it's just a matter of not being ready. And you saw it in the preseason. Like when the bright lights came on, you saw rookie mistakes. You saw inconsistency, drop balls, touchdowns that should have been touchdowns that weren't because of foot placement, stuff like that. It's really, I've said this a few times, it's not a knock on Jalen. It's hard to transition to the NFL, especially when you're not a first-round type of pick. I always thought it was a little bit silly that the Cowboys thought they could put that much on his plate. So it sounds like he's going to get a go tonight. Hopefully he makes a good accounting of himself because, I would imagine Gallup is ready next week. And so if Tolbert can put a good foot forward, then you start to at least feel decent about your top 3 or 4 receivers if you can count on Jalen Tolbert to contribute something.
How do they replace the security blanket of Dalton Schultz?
I think you're going to be asking for a lot. I mean, obviously you're going to be asking for a lot more from CeeDee Lamb and Noah Brown for starters. I mean, they both need to continue to play the way they did against Cincinnati and not the way they did against Tampa Bay. So I don't think you just move Jake Ferguson up a rung and expect him to handle everything that Dalton Schultz does. I mean, Dalton Schultz he's the safest option in this offense. I don't know how much you want to put on Jake Ferguson's plate. So I think you look to your receivers. I would hope a backup quarterback, I know Cooper Rush looked good last week, but a backup quarterback playing a division game on the road, I hope you try to take the ball out of his hands as much as you can and get the running game going. But I would like to think Jake Ferguson is another guy that's ready for this moment. He had a wonderful preseason, and if you can get, 2 to 5 receptions out of him in his first big opportunity, that would be a hell of a start for him as well.
So Tyler Smith has performed really well at left tackle, and that brings up a question for when Tyron Smith comes back, if he does this year. But for tonight, Jason Peters on the active roster, apparently going to make his debut on a bit of a pitch count, probably playing left guard. Does that make you comfortable with him now having to move to that spot, given that Tyler Smith played really well at tackle?
Yeah, I think we talked about that when they signed Peters, and I absolutely think Tyler Smith has played well enough to keep his spot, especially, is Tyler Smith a better tackle than Jason Peters tonight? Probably not, but I think your long-run benefits of playing Tyler Smith are more, just get that guy snaps, get him ready, have him acclimated. My thing is, it's always the idea of like your best 5, like the continuity. And Matt Farniak has done such an admirable job stepping in for Connor McGovern. Do you mess with that for a guy who really hasn't played a ton of guard in his career? Like Jason Peters is a left tackle. So I'm curious to see how that looks. And then the flip side of that is, maybe Jason Peters, there's the understanding there that Jason Peters didn't sign on to sit on the bench. So I don't even know if he's comfortable being the swing tackle. But if it were up to me, I think I would have used Peters as my swing and just kept the guard situation the way it was. So I'm interested to see how all of that jives. Tyler Smith played a lot next to Farniak and Connor McGovern. So it's going to be interesting to see if they hit the round running or if that's going to be a little bit of a hiccup when you're shuffling personnel like that. I'm just, like I said, if Peters wants to play, I get it, but I'm not sure it was necessary.
In 2 of the games that were highlighted yesterday, Buccaneers and in their game with the Packers, 14-12. Last night's game was 11-10. What are we seeing here?
I think it's a trend that we've recognized for a while. I mean, for starters, the Bucs and Packers, especially the Buccaneers, you're just talking about being compromised. Who do the Buccaneers have left on their offense? Like, at some point, you lose the ability, even Tom Brady loses the ability to just keep things rolling. Mike Evans is suspended. Chris Godwin and Julio Jones are both hurt. The left tackle's out. The starting center's out as well. When 6 or 7 of the 11 guys on your offense are backups, I think that's just kind of what happens. But I think there's also something to be said for, in this day and age, you get fewer practices than ever before. You get less time in pads than ever before. Teams tend to rest guys during the preseason more than they ever have before. And so I think and like I said, I think this has been a trend for a while now, is that the first month of the season is pretty friggin' sloppy by NFL standards. And is it entertaining football? Not necessarily, but I've said that a million times. Like, the Buccaneers are 2-1. I'd rather be 2-1 and have Tom Brady healthy and be able to rebound. The same thing with the Broncos. They didn't play in the preseason either. I bet they'd rather look ugly as hell and be 2-1 with all their important players healthy than have lost a guy during training camp. So It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But yeah, I think it's pretty standard to expect some of these big time offenses to struggle in the first month. But I will say it's been even uglier than usual in a few of these big games.
What do you think about Nathaniel Hackett's situation with the Broncos? The fans, even with 2 wins under their belt, now not happy with him and game management, and he brought in a coach to kind of help him with that, or an analyst on the staff to help him with those things. But they are 2-1, but it hasn't looked pretty.
I mean, kudos to him for hiring somebody. He probably should have done that to begin with. Like, I think damn near every coach has a guy like that. The Ravens are famous for having analytics people who are in John Harbaugh's ear throughout the game. So, like, that doesn't bother me so much as the fact that he didn't have one to begin with. But yeah, I mean, whether it's play calling, execution, or both, I mean, the Broncos just look like they're in over their heads. I didn't think that they were just going to hit the ground running and be a Super Bowl contender right off the bat. But you look at the Broncos roster, they're not missing anything that leads you to think they should have these type of results. You know, I mean, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy is a hell of a receiver combination. The offensive line is decent. Javonte Williams, the young running back, and Melvin Gordon, like, they've got good ball carriers. And then even if Russell Wilson's not the MVP candidate that we've seen from the last 4 or 5 years, he's still, I thought, a very, very above league average quarterback. And you saw it. You saw one glimpse at the end of the game last night, like with do or die on the line. He drove him downfield and looked like the old Russell Wilson for about 4.5 minutes. They just got to find a way to get that more consistently. I've seen high school teams that can do better than 8 3-and-outs in one game. I mean, that's just atrocious. So, like I said, I don't pay close enough attention to the Broncos to know who to put it on, but it's a staggering amount of ineptitude when you think of the talent they have in place.
Thank you, David. As always, continue the great work out west at Fox Sports.
Thanks, guys.
NFL Cowboys writer, and also a part of many of the NFL shows on Fox Sports with what he does. When we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5 on 365 Sports.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 fits for Georgia Tech. Okay, I'm going to explain this. So when you watch this video and you tell me I'm stupid because this guy would never go anywhere and you comment on it, these are people I think would fit there. Not that they're going there, not that they're going to get hired. I have no inside information. These are just guys I think would fit. If I was building a Lego structure of Georgia Tech football coach, these are the guys that would fit together.
How many of these did you steal from Pete Thamel, Paul? I'm kidding with you. There's I'm going to say you had to cut it between 5 and 20.
There, Pete Thamel, Bruce Feldman. I mostly read those to just see like when people would say, no, there's no way this guy would fit at Georgia Tech because they're all the same names. But these are people I whittled down. Number 5, Dan Mullen. Look, and I've said, I don't know if Dan Mullen is going to get back into college coaching because he's not too keen on the recruiting. But if he goes to Georgia Tech, the recruiting kind of flows through a nice little pipeline of he doesn't necessarily have to go toe-to-toe with Georgia anymore. He's going to play them, but like we heard earlier from Kelly Quinlan, there are certain lanes you have to keep it in at Georgia Tech, so you have to be a developmental coach, which is something he's actually been really good at, just as Dak Prescott and some of the other players, of developing talent. Recruiting that, developing the talent, like he did at Mississippi State, and finding that lane that you can get with guys who have to fit into the academic qualifications at Georgia Tech. Plus, he's a really good X&O guy, Dan Mullen is. He's just not, he was just not the guy for Florida anymore.
Yeah, That's an interesting idea. I could see them going that direction or at least pursuing that idea. I just wonder how many other teams are also going to be thinking the same thing and how many are going to be involved with also wanting to get Dan Mullen and where Georgia Tech would fall in line as far as the pecking order of that goes.
And Dan Mullen, I do think would be a really good NFL position coach, especially a quarterback coach. But he did not go that route right away. He went into TV, which makes me think he kind of wants to get back into college coaching. Number 4, Bill O'Brien. This guy is going to be a head coach again. He's going to be a head coach again at the FBS level. This is a place he was at for 9 years. I think he was good at Penn State. I know that this is kind of the bland hire, but I do think Georgia Tech needs somebody who's done this before and has dealt with interesting circumstances. Remember, Bill O'Brien was the head coach at Penn State right after the gigantic scandal. That's a head coach before that can handle circumstances. And I do think Bill O'Brien is this guy. Now, would he be all that exciting to your fans? No. He is butter on toast. That's all he really is.
I love butter on my toast. I do that all the time.
I'm bored even thinking about it. Yeah.
But I mean,
here's the thing. Do they want to win or they want somebody exciting? They want to win or go 4-8 with a guy that has a personality. He would. I know that it is blasé. He kind of bland. The Texans, way that all went down at the end, didn't go well because of the trades. But Nick Saban's not an idiot.
So you're good if he's a Nebraska head coach next?
If he could win, I don't care if it's Bill Smith. Do I want him to be the next head coach? No. I just want somebody who wins. You know what? Tom Osborne was boring. His offenses weren't. His teams weren't. But really, he was what about his personality?
Yeah, look, and I'll tell you, yes, it's the cottage cheese for a snack of coaches. Yeah. But, I mean, he is.
Do I want that to be their number one target? No, but I'm just saying, he is still – I know Nick Saban has rehabilitated a lot of different coaches, and Bill O'Brien's one of the next. But he wins. He does. And so it just depends on what you want. Happy, personality, jovial, or do you want to win?
All right. Now, from cottage cheese to something that is spicy and might give you a stomach ache, but you might enjoy it for a little while. Tom Herman, number 3. This is a place where I think this is about the size school that won't get Tom Herman too stressed out. And because I always felt that Texas, while there was a lot of things he could do well in that job, it's too much of a pressure cooker for a guy who's too high strung. But Georgia Tech isn't. And again, Tom Herman is a really smart guy. I mean, we all know he's in Mensa, and would jive there in a high academic, place. I think that if he's going to come back to college coaching, this is kind of a fit for him.
Yeah, I agree, like, on the academic part of that. I just see Herman as more of like an Arizona State type of a guy.
And he does fit kind of there.
Yeah, more of like I know he's a Cali dude, and that's not why I say that, but it's just kind of, he comes across as a Cali guy as well. And I could see him as more of a Pac-12 type. But no, I definitely think Herman, and I started to see his name mentioned more and more. I definitely think he's somebody that people need to, pay close attention to. I do think that, especially looking at Sarkisian's struggles right now, is like how different is that from Tom Herman's era and what he did, winning a Sugar Bowl and making Sam Ehlinger a lot better of a player over the years? Like, he can coach. I just think that there was a quick pull there for a variety of different reasons in Austin. And, yeah, I think he's somebody who can definitely come back to the college game and do well for himself. So, yeah, I just say no. I'm not saying no or yes to Georgia Tech. I could see, anybody pursuing him, but he does strike me as a guy who would probably have more fun and enjoy it more like an Arizona State type of a place. But that's just me.
But, yeah, again, those are the kind of places where I think he needs to be, where he can make it his program, where he can make it his, and it's not like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? They can just let him be and not let him get high strung. And he doesn't have to do things like it's little Jordan Humphrey and, he
doesn't have P charts getting dissected over Twitter. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Everybody has P charts, but not everybody is where everybody can see them.
Well, not everybody has beat reporters that tweet them out like they're fascinating material, but here we are.
Yeah. Number 2, Bronco Mendenhall, former UVA and BYU head coach, has had success at both places to varying degrees, not so much at UVA, but he did it at BYU. And look, BYU is kind of the example I'm setting here. Here's a guy with head coaching experience that has had to recruit to a place that has very specific ways of recruiting. It's going to be hard. Like at BYU, it's going to be really hard to get non-Mormon kids to go there in a lot of respects. But you do have a lot of good Mormon football players to pick from. But again, you've got honor codes, you've got all these things. You have to thread the needle at BYU. I think Georgia Tech's a good fit for him too.
Yeah, he's a solid coach.
He's been the ACC too.
Did he not retire?
Yeah, but I mean, who's retired?
I know, yeah.
Elton John's gone on 7 farewell tours.
He's retired. He's also said he wants to come back multiple times, so he's not that retired.
Yeah. And number 1.
Hey, leave Elton alone. He's rejuvenating Britney Spears' career.
Good for him. We need more of that.
Do we?
Number 1. He is right down the road.
Oh, yeah.
This is his time. You could take the other 4 guys off my list right now. Georgia Tech, Jamie Chadwell. He runs that a unique offense. He can handle everything that's coming your way. Great personality. Assistant coaches will come with him. He'll be able to recruit there. Jamie Chadwell. You hear me, Georgia Tech? Jamie Chadwell. Do it. He will win in the ACC. I promise you that. Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah, we enjoyed having him on, and they were off to aren't they off to? Are they unbeaten now?
He's 24-3 in his last 3 years. Like, what more does he have to do at Coastal Carolina before somebody gives him a shot?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the next kind of new name up that a lot of people have been obsessing over for a couple years now, and rightfully so. He's had a lot of success. He has a fun offense, and Grayson McCall's a great player, and I mean, I could definitely see him making the move up this time around. I don't know how you do another carousel, especially when there's going to be a lot more jobs that probably open up here over the next few months. I mean, we're already starting off with, a couple big spots, but yeah, I definitely think that we're about the breaking point for him to finally make that move. So I could see that.
Super chat from BYU and Utah Tech. BYU will rise and shout. They will be nationally recognized as a powerhouse and a blue blood. 1922, 100 years going strong. Right in the chat. Where are my BYU fans at nationwide? So thanks for the super chat from you, BYU at Utah Tech. And also thanks to everybody in the chat room, all of you, every single one of you that are a part of what we do day in and day out. We appreciate what you say, even if we agree to disagree on occasion. From Jacob Wilson, Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter, Levi Caraway, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak, thank you so much for being a part of what we do. Don't forget tonight on CW Channel, Sports Tonight, right here, 365 Sports. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.